It is 6:30 on January 24th, 2017. We have a city council meeting called for this day and time and place. We have a full body present, so I will call us to order. We are in order, and I would appreciate you joining me in the pledges to the flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. We're privileged to have in our presence tonight Pastor Roland Nava, one of the leading clergy of our community, and so I would invite you to come forward and offer an invocation for us.
Father, our prayer that you bless this gathering, Father, that everything shall become decently and in order, Father. Lord, we just ask for your peace, Father, and unity, Father. Lord, we just ask that you just bless the prayer, the council, and all those that are here in this presence all together, Lord. We just ask for your peace to be upon us, Lord. We just thank you, Father, for the freedom of our gathering, Lord. We give you all honor and glory in the mighty name of Jesus.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Nava. We have our regular update from the EDC, our Executive Director, Sean Kirkpatrick.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager, Community for letting me come and update y'all on the EDC's activities. The board held its first meeting of 2017 last night here at City Hall. If you had not heard yet, Steve Mills, the board chair, has resigned from the board effective yesterday. We will be showing appreciation and thanks to Steve in a future meeting and his service and dedication of 16 years to the EDC. The board did not take action on electing a new chair, so currently Christy Koch is serving as vice chair and Cam Chavez is continuing to serve as secretary treasurer, and they will take that up at a future meeting. The board did approve the 9th amended bylaws to send those to the City Council for approval. You'll be seeing those most likely in February for y'all to consider approving the 9th amended bylaws as they're currently drafted. They also adopted 4 sets of policies and procedures for the EDC, one of which is the board meeting policies and procedures, governance policies, as well as financial policies, and then updated a travel policy for EDC staff. They also, Mr. Townsend presented to the board the drainage study for Pine Forest Unit 6, and the board has approved considering that, and we're going to begin working on putting together all of the documentation to bring that back to the board at the February meeting for their formal approval. Sarah will probably provide additional information on this. We hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we'll be installing the kiosk at Buc-ee's. That is part of their contractual performance agreement with the EDC. It is constructed and stained. The television and hardware is all ready to go. We're finalizing the first set of slides that will be the presentation for that. And we've got 11 of the first 22 that we're doing. And we'll play some combination of those starting once we install that and have some backups to replace them in future months. So we're excited that that project will be hopefully being installed and coming to fruition. It has been a lot more work, and we'll bring that back with pictures and a demonstration of what the slides look like, and let y'all know once it's formally installed so y'all go stop by and see it. And we are available to answer any questions or that y'all have. We're trying to keep this short.
Anybody? Sean, thank you very much.
Thank y'all very much. Y'all have a good evening.
We've all had a chance to review Chief Adcock's report. Is there anything else y'all want him to provide, or have any questions for him? You want to say something further?
Just that this is a required reporting period. Does anybody have any questions of me?
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. And anything we need to distribute at this point? Anybody, We don't have any targeted future agenda items at this point. Would like to invite the council to see if you have any requests for information or future agenda items for me and Marvin, or requests for Marvin. Okay.
I'm just wondering if we can move Marvin's announcements actually up to, up somewhere on the agenda before the consent agenda, so we can hear his announcements, so before people go home.
Yeah, would you identify those items for me?
It is number E in the agenda.
Last page.
Uh-huh. Since we don't have the city manager's report, it'd be really good. It used to become at the beginning of the
Marvin, is that okay with
agenda.
you, or did you want that? I know you wanted that at the end. Do you care where it is?
No, I'll be back to it first.
Well, let's finish C, and then we'll make that C and a half. C point B or something like that. Anything else? I have something I'd like you to look into. I'm becoming increasingly concerned about the stretch of road on Highway 95 between Chestnut and 71. Just an enormous amount of traffic coming out into lanes that are full of people trying to get somewhere and tired of sitting in traffic lights. And I don't know if there's anything in the world we can do about that, but I heard a rumor that local wrecker said we're having more wrecks there than any place else around. So I don't know who would look into that. I know it's a state right away, but I hope maybe you and your staff can take a look at that.
Would that be something our public safety officer would be looking at?
I think that, and I think Public Works and connection, and the engineer in connection with the state highway department and whatever else Marvin wants to do. Just like to.
We'll send a couple of people to the highway department and try to get them to pay attention to it.
Good, thank you. Marvin, you want to go with item E? We're going to move to item E now, and whatever announcements you have.
Well, I just wanted to bring you up to date on a couple of projects, and I didn't want it to be long-winded, so I just listed it as announcements. Sean has already talked about a little bit about Pine Forest. We're going to have a series of meetings. In particular, there's a meeting of the Property Owners Association on Saturday, and I've agreed to make some comments there. It's time for us to start getting draft contracts with the school board and the county, and of course they'll come to you first, and then we'll have a draft contract that'll come here first with the water district, and little by little we're going to try to bring all those steps together. But I just wanted to, out of some of those, there may be some kind of public discussion. I want you to be aware that we'll be having those meetings. The Great All that you authorized for drainage has arrived. The key people are being trained to operate it. The key project that it'll start with will be in Hunter's Crossing, and there are a number of problems in Hunter's Crossing drainage-wise, and not necessarily that which the people out there think are the problems, but what they think are the problems are also concerns. So I just wanted to mention that we will be having some drainage work done in Hunter's Crossing early, as soon as that crew is ready to operate the Great All. And we will have some subcontracts, and the board that deals with the PID meets tomorrow, and the Planning Commission meets Thursday. And both of those meetings will have discussions about Hunter's Crossing. And I imagine that there'll probably be some news stories out of it, but there's been a big effort to turn the people out at those particular meetings. I thought you would want to know that. The answer was filed in the well lawsuit. The Lost Pines Groundwater Control District met and did not approve any rehearing. So the next step for those who are contesting it is to the district court. Finally, the CCN that we worked so hard on last year or so has been finally cleaned up, and it's now the city's, this is out on Highway 71 going west. I just wanted to bring those to your attention.
Marvin, thank you. Good work. Yes, Willie, and then Bill.
On the manager's comments, and when he said Saturday, it's the POA meeting that he talked about was Saturday, February 4th.
4th, did I say 2nd? I'm sorry.
No, you just said this, I said Saturday, but you didn't say Saturday the 4th.
Yeah.
And then, let me ask you this, Marvin, and you talked about the drainage issue out there at Hunter's Crossing. Is what you're talking about doing, or what we're talking about doing, or the work that we need to be doing at Hunter's Crossing and the ponds and everything, but in the culvert area as well, is that going to relieve the people that start from the county or right at the edge of our city limits and going south toward the Shiloh Bridge?
The first concern is to correct the number of maintenance problems around the ponds, not in the ponds. The ponds may be addressed to some extent, but it's mainly the ditches and piping, and in one case an overflow that needs to be put in. This will not help at all in the problem at Shiloh and 304, which is where there's been 2 washouts in the past, and that's well out in the county, and the county put it back the way it was, so the next time it rains real hard, it's going to go out again. That's not much of an answer. I'm just saying that the part we're clearly responsible for is in pretty sharp focus. What's going to happen at Shiloh down by the aqua water tanks, that road crossing, they just put it back like it was, and it's a big hunk of concrete on top of a pipe. And if the water rises again like it did before, it's going to go out. It's going to both block the traffic and also block the water.
Well, let me ask you this way then, and that's probably the best answer you could have gave, I know, but if we visit with the county or our 2 groups visit, are they going to say our issues are causing their issues? And because I think it's going to take more than just going out there and cleaning. It may need to be channeled all the way from where we leave Hunter's Crossing all the way to the Shallow Bridge.
That's it. That's
And
correct.
that's going to be partly our responsibility or the county's?
It's almost all the county.
Okay.
Obviously, there can be arguments, but I mean, it's as the development builds up, most of that development is inside the city limits. Obviously, the development is adding flow to the creek, and we're in touch with the county officials. And I asked the judge if there was any money for drainage in his next program. He said no, but there might be the year after that. It's got to be faced, but it's not being faced yet.
Thank you. Anything else for the city manager? The city council, working with our very good consultant, will meet next week to interview 6 candidates for city manager. We will decide after that where to go next. Citizens' comments. Ann, do we have some? Mr. Nava, Pastor Nava.
Thank you for allowing me to come up. I have some flyers I want to give out to y'all. Can I pass them out to y'all?
Sure.
As y'all know, last year we formed a BNACCC, which is the Bastrop's North Area Community Concern Committee. And where we're having community picnics out at Joe Hodges Park. We're picking up again this year. This year we're in collaboration with Carlos from Lost Pines Toyota, providing and also collaboration with the Boys and Girls Club. Going to be out there having a booth set up for the kids in that community. The purpose of the picnic is for the community to come together, and to voice their concerns again. They're coming up with things again, and so this is where the community comes together, and so the reason why I passed the flyers out was to invite y'all to go out, those that are able. It's February the 11th from 3 to 5:30 at Joe Hodges Park. And also on the flyer, it also shows that we are sponsored also by the city as well.
Do you have one of these for the press? Good, you're way ahead of me.
I gave her a small one. So it's just to let y'all know, I think it'd be a good deal for y'all to come out and to hear what the citizens have to say on the north end, on the other side of the tracks. You know, that's where I live and that's where I've been pushing for the beginning, and thank God that we finally got the bus shelter that's being very used. And also thank you for the new playscape that was also placed out there at Joe Hodges Park. And I look forward to having a regular restroom out there instead of the porta can. But we're thankful for that as well. But we're going to be gathering out there on the 11th, and we just want to give y'all an open invitation to come on out and to hear the comments of the citizens out on that side.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have no more requests under this item. Consent agenda, we have 4 items on the consent agenda. Unless somebody wants to pull one off, we'll vote on them all together. Any request to vote separately on any item? Is there a motion to accept them as a whole?
I move. Excuse me.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. I believe I heard 5 ayes. Anybody opposed? No noes. Thank you. Item B is public hearings. Don't have any. C is old business. Second reading of an ordinance revising the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 13, Utilities, by adding Article 13.12, Licensing Agreement for Attachments to Utility Facilities, adding Section 13.12.001, General Provisions, adding Section 13.12.002, Standard Licensing Agreement for Attachments to Utility Facilities, adding Section 13.12.003, Application of Fees and Charges, amending Appendix A, Fee Schedule, adding Section A, 16.01.001, Attachments to Utility Facilities, Fees, and Charges, and providing an effective date and discussion and possible action regarding adoption of a standard leasing agreement for attachments to utility facilities. Mr. Rosales.
Mayor, this is just for the second reading for the utility attachments agreement, just so we have a standardized agreement and set the fees. Any questions?
Move that we approve this.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Schiff, seconded by Councilmember McNally. Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? I think I heard 5 ayes, Kay. I usually call the roll on these, but I think it's real clear. On the second reading, there was 5 ayes and no noes.
Thank you, Mayor.
C2 is a second reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 15, Fairview Cemetery, to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bastrop, Texas, in accordance with existing statutory requirements, repealing all conflicting ordinances, containing a severability clause, and providing for an effective date. Ms. Waldron.
Good evening. This is just the second reading of the changes to the cemetery ordinance.
Any questions or comments? No, questions. Let's say questions.
I move for approval.
I have a question.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, Willie, please. Approve the ordinance, correct? Was that your motion? Approve
Yes.
on second reading of the ordinance.
Second reading approving
I got
this
a
ordinance.
second from Willie, and do you want to say anything, Gary? Willie? No. Deborah?
I wanted to say something. I don't think we should have height restrictions.
On
On the height restrictions on the monuments? That is, where is that in this?
that was discussed at the board level, and we did raise the height from 4 feet to 6 feet, but we did want to leave a height restriction in there. They can always bring a variance and ask for a request, but it gives us more opportunity to collect more information about exactly how high they're wanting to go, what they're planning on doing, what's their base going to be like, and so that was the discussion at the board level.
Was the committee pretty open to variances if they were appropriate?
And actually, I believe that particular restriction can be approved by the city manager. It doesn't have to go to the board, but at least it gives us more information before we approve it.
So the reason for the 6 feet restriction was based on what?
So that there is a limit, and
Wasn't
if somebody
safety-
wants
wasn't
to go
about-
over that, they
wasn't
have
about
to.
safety?
Definitely, yes.
Okay. I will.
So it went from 4 to 6?
4 to 6. Yeah, and there's an option for something in addition if someone has a good, solid argument for it could be taller and be safe. Somebody called me about this, and I called just for information, council's information, I called the state cemetery, and they said they also have a 6-foot limit. I asked them if it was for safety reasons. They said absolutely not. They just wanted a number. They've got a bunch of statues there, monuments there that are more than 6 feet like we do, and they've never had any trouble with them. I don't think we have. But you've set a benchmark. If the council agrees with this, we do have some options for an extraordinary monument that might actually be fine at 7.5 feet or something like that. But we have some ways to deal with that. But the standard's going to be 6 if y'all approve this. Anything else? Well, let's call the roll on this one.
Can you restate the motion, please?
It's the approval of the ordinance on second reading that's starts on page 52. You want to look it over again?
No, I just would like it to be said publicly so everybody knows what it is.
Is everybody clear? Okay, let's call the roll.
Councilmember Schiff?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem De La Rosa?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
So that passes on a 5-0 vote. Backing up to item 6D for a second, we have 5, not 6 interviews. City manager corrected my math. Item C3 is a report that you have from the city attorney in your packets. Pretty clear, I think. Give council an opportunity to say anything. We have one citizen that wants to talk about it. Anybody? Glenn Johnson.
Council, Mayor, as a citizen, I only have 3 minutes to comment on the city attorney's Bragg's investigation report. To be sure, it will be there'll be additional, more detailed comments supplied as this investigation continues by citizens and other authorities of the state of Texas. The meeting on November 29th was a public meeting. Even if the workshop exemption applies, the meeting ceased to be a workshop when the TML webinar finished. A quorum of the City Council, Mayor Caslis, Council members Jones, Schiff, and Peterson began to have a discussion regarding practices, policies, and procedures of City Council meetings. Tape recording indicates they discussed several council policies and procedures, including specifically how best to silence comments of Councilmember McAnally and deal with arguments between Council members Lilydale Rosa and Kay McAnally. This was not a private discussion. When it was suggested to the Council that the meeting was not legal, the response was not to disband the meeting, but rather Councilmember Schiff turned off one of the recording devices, leaving another tape running. It is interesting to note that the workshop session scheduled on December 1 was canceled, presumably by the city manager, presumably because it was not time to properly notice that meeting, and the notices of the workshops on December 5 and December 7 were posted. Someone came to the conclusion that these were meetings that should be noticed to the public. Since it was a public meeting, the discussions from when a quorum was present were public discussions, and the tapes of the discussion are public record. The mayor and city manager ordered the director of the IT department to destroy the taping of the post-webinar meeting, which he courageously and correctly refused to do so. Despite Mr. Bragg's belief it was not an open meeting, several administrative lawyers well-versed in the Open Meetings Act and the Public Information Act, consulted by me, believe it was a public meeting. Most importantly, the Bastrop district attorney, whom Mr. Bragg unsuccessfully argued with, held fast to his belief it was a public record and a public document, contrary to Mr. Bragg's interpretation. The tape recording is a government record, and the effort to destroy it is a serious infraction of the Public Information Act, just as the meeting was a serious infraction of the Texas Open Meetings Act. The mayor and city manager should be faulted for their attempt to destroy and keep from the public a recorded discussion of a quorum of the city council. The Attorney General's opinions regarding the Open Meetings Act, the Public Information Act, and the Texas Municipal League comments frequently state that governmental bodies should err on the side of making these meetings open and the records available. Mr. Townsend wisely changed his mind and withdrew his directive to delete the conversation. Mr. Bragg is correct in saying that the IT department and the police department were justified in contacting the district attorney regarding this apparent violation of the law. This is the right of every citizen, obligation to do so, do what is right and report wrongdoing. The attempt to minimize this serious infraction of state law will not work. Further investigations will be conducted.
Thank you, Glenn. I'm going to comment that you're incorrect, that I don't know why Andreas interpreted what I said the way you described it, but I didn't ask him to destroy anything. I asked him to set up a webinar that we were going to distribute to other people in the community to watch so they could find out more about Robert's Rules of Order, and that's what I did. I wish he had tried to clarify it with me, but he didn't, and so your allegation is incorrect. So just want to say that for the record. So, well, I appreciate your coming and speaking to us.
That's what the press report says, and that's what the report says in the investigation report. And there was obviously an attempt to stop recording of the illegal meeting by Councilmember Schiff. He failed to do so, and when I was surprised to get the information from my open records request 2 weeks ago, I did not realize that the seriousness. I thought we just had a failure to notice a meeting, but we had a illegal meeting of the majority of the council to discuss policies of the council.
I know you've read our report from our city attorney, so
yes.
I appreciate your comments to the contrary. Thank you.
Well, all the information is in the report.
Item.
I would like to make a comment.
Okay. You want to make it to Glenn or just in general?
Not to Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn.
In general. Thank you very much.
I'll let you take your seat. Mr. Johnson, thank you. Deborah?
Any conversation that we had was not about silencing anyone. It was about appropriate behavior. Over and over again in the TML rules, it was pointed out several times that it is a violation of TML rules to berate and slander fellow council members from the dais. That was the conversation.
Okay, anybody else? Thank you. Under new business, we have item D1 that has several parts to it. I want to ask just for clarification, because in the course of this, I asked the city manager to ask Sarah O'Brien to let us know what we're doing with tourism marketing at this point, because there was some comments at the advisory board that sounded like we weren't doing anything. I want to make sure that you clarify that for us, please.
Yes, Mayor and Council, just wanted to kind of go over everything that has happened, kind of a brief overview. As everyone is aware, the Bastrop Marketing Corporation agreement contract expired earlier this summer. We approved a joint advertising budget with you guys in November of this year because the BMC still had reserves funding that needed to be spent. So I've been working really closely with Kim Britton, who's their designee. We are currently placed through April of 2017 with our media. The BMC funding expires at the end of this month, so we are in the process of transferring all of the billing over to the city. So we will start paying the bills from here on out. We have every intention of maintaining our relationships with Proof Advertising and he being PR distribution service. We think that it's the responsibility of the new destination marketing organization to come up with a comprehensive destination marketing plan. And so our plan, as we discussed last November, is a course until that new entity is established unless otherwise directed by you. We have included a couple of things that we're going to be doing in the next few months to try to prepare for the new tourism entity to be put in place. This is a sample. This is, we've got 2 major print ads that we'll be running this quarter. This is the Texas Monthly ad, and this is the Austin Monthly ad. We are focusing a lot of our advertising dollars on outdoor media and billboards to the tune of about $15,000 a month. And then we're spending about the same $15,000 a month in digital media. We believe that that's where we're going to get the biggest bang for our buck. So these are just some examples of the various ads that will pop up for folks that are outside of the Bastrop area when they are searching the internet and going through different news sites. We are still maintaining the lostandloveweddings.com and visitlostpines.com, as well as the Visit Lost Pines Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook feeds. Hebein PR was a new company that the BMC decided to go with, I believe, in May of this year. We've been really pleased with their results. They do event calendar listings for all of the local events that tourists would want to attend, pitch story ideas to regional and statewide media, press release distribution, and they did that for all of our fall, winter, and our spring events have been done. We've got a couple of new initiatives. I know Sean talked a little bit about the Buc-ee's kiosk we've been working on, and hopefully that will be done in the next few weeks. We have spent some additional funding on professional photography, Lost Pines Christmas weekend, and some of our upcoming spring events because we just did not have a good stock of professional photos. We've also booked the first ever Bastrop Half Marathon with Race Texas, which will take place on March 25th, I believe, designed to attract overnight visitors. And then we're currently redoing the entire Bastrop TripAdvisor account as well. Some of the things that we're working on to kind of lay the groundwork for the new tourism entity is both our culinary and cultural arts district plans. These are both designations that we've had, and in recent years we have not done a lot to utilize those designations or to promote the participants and to attract visitors to those. And we want to have those plans in place when the new destination marketing organization is formed so they can hit the ground running on promoting those. We're also partnering with Mind Ecology to do a visitor profile research and targeting study so that we know who's been staying in Bastrop hotels, where do they come from, and how do we reach them through advertising. So when the new marketing corporation is set up, they will have that data and be ready to roll with their new destination marketing plan. And we've also got some funding set aside to do some co-op trade shows with Bastrop County Tourism to try to bring some group business to town. And that's kind of a brief overview. If there are any specific questions that you may have, but I can assure you we have not gone dark. We are still out there.
I think you've answered mine mostly, but it sounds like you're doing at least as much as we were doing in the last quarter and the quarter before that. And the reason I asked for this was one of our hoteliers at the DMO advisory committee meeting said his business was down, and I think alluded to the fact that we weren't doing this enough advertising, but actually we're doing as much as we ever did or more. Is that correct?
That's correct. The media buys with Proof have been very consistent with what they were the last few years as far as the information that I've been aware of. You know, there's been a lot of new hotel rooms that have come on the market in Austin, but we've actually it's been our advantage. Our last payment to the BMC was on August 1st, which was for June's hotel occupancy tax collection. So we've had a little bit of padding that's letting us do that cultural arts district and culinary arts district planning and the visitor profile survey and some of these additional things that we're able to do because of the excess funding to be ready to go when the DMO is established.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, can you just update us on the billboards? The billboards were a very successful campaign, and I know a lot of the shops on Main Street and also 71 had said, oh boy, this has really helped bring people in. What's going on with the billboards?
So those are actually the billboards that I alluded to in this campaign that we're currently spending about $15,000 a month on are different. That was a billboard campaign that was established by the Downtown Business Alliance. And from my understanding and conversations with them, all of those contracts either have expired or are expiring. We We have a lot of work to do with the Downtown Business Alliance. They're kind of in a flux right now, trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do going forward. And so we will continue to work with them.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Will you be working with them? Because those specific billboards were so successful, I would like to see something
absolutely
done that, well, I would like for the board to consider.
Okay, absolutely. I will be happy to talk to them. And on the Main Street side of things, we're focusing all of our first quarter of 2017 advertising efforts on retail recruitment because we've got a lot of empty storefronts that are coming up. So that's a completely different campaign that I can report on later.
We're lucky to have you with the ability to wear several hats. I'm glad you're with us and appreciate what you're doing for us, and thank you for this report.
Thank you.
Last Tuesday, the DMO Advisory Committee that y'all set up at the previous council meeting met and took action to recommend as outlined under item D1, item 2. And they were of the opinion that that was their job and that's all they needed to do. And so we have before us their recommendations. And I will open the floor under item 3 for any response to their report.
Yeah, I would like to put forth a resolution regarding the DMO, and I have it printed out here. I will read it in a minute. I'm going to pass this out. If the press wants a copy, I've got a copy here. Bill's got one. I tried to make this as comprehensive as possible so that it really outlines what I hope that the council will agree with me the interim DMO board should be doing moving forward. So does everybody have a copy on the dais? I'm going to read the resolution and then we can...
You're going to place this as a motion?
Yeah, I'll place this as a motion.
Yeah, if you would read it, since it's fresh, we need you to do that, please.
Okay. So I move that we adopt this resolution, a resolution of the City of Bastrop, Texas, pertaining to the expenditures to be made pursuant to Texas Tax Code 351.101 of the Municipal Hotel Occupancy Tax, including the establishment of a starter board and the assignment of duties to the starter board and providing for severability. Whereas the City of Bastrop receives a share of the municipal hotel occupancy tax levied on certain businesses in the City of Bastrop and its extraterritorial jurisdiction, and whereas pursuant to Texas Tax Code 351.101A, such funds may be used only to promote tourism and the convention and hotel industry, and whereas for the City of Bastrop Tax Code 351.101A1 through 9 limits the use of such funds for the purposes specified in these sections of the statute, and whereas the Tax Code 351.101B provides that such funds shall be expended in a manner directly enhancing and promoting tourism and the convention and hotel industry and may not be used for the general revenue purposes or general government operations of the City of Bastrop, and whereas under Texas Tax Code 351.101C, the City of Bastrop may, by contract, delegate to a person, another governmental entity, or private organization the management or supervision of programs and activities funded with revenue from the municipal hotel occupancy tax, so long as 1, the City of Bastrop in writing shall approve in advance the annual budget of the person to which it delegates those functions. 2, the person provides at least quarterly reports to the City of Bastrop listing the expenditures made by the person with revenue from the municipal hotel occupancy tax. 3, the person does not commingle such funds with any other funds. And 4, the approval of the annual budget creates a fiduciary duty on the part of the person to whom the function is delegated with respect to the revenue provided to the person. And whereas funds from the municipal hotel occupancy may be spent by the person to whom functions described above are delegated for day-to-day operations, salaries, office rental, travel expenses, and other administrative costs, only if those administrative costs are incurred directly in the promotion and servicing expenditures authorized under Tax Code 351.101A 1 through 9, which expenditures are subject to further limitations outlined in Texas Tax Code 351.101E and F. And whereas the City of Bastrop has a duty to ensure that the person, other governmental entity, or private organization to which management and supervision are delegated is organized, structured, and operated in a manner consistent with Texas Tax Code 351.101. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas. 1, the city manager is instructed to execute a contract with DMO Pros at the company's hourly rate of $250 an hour plus expenses, with a total cost not to exceed $36,000 plus expenses, so that DMO Pros will assist the starting board created below and the City Council in working through the details to create a DMO. Number 2, the Destination Marketing Organization, DMO Starting Board, is hereby created, composed of the following members: A. Clint Howard for the arts industry, Hiren Patel for hotels and lodging, Richard Brackett for restaurants and nightlife, Ann Smarzik for retail, and E. former Mayor Tom Scott, who will serve as the chair of the board and represent the City Council. 3, the starting board will meet in public session at posted meetings at City Hall whenever possible. 4, the starting board will consider, discuss, and make recommendations to the City Council on the following issues and will report its progress at each regular council meeting hereafter, at which time the council may make comments and give further instructions as necessary. A, review the suggestions contained within the DMO Pros report and make recommendations to the City Council as to which, if any, of the recommendations are applicable and desirable to satisfy the best interests of our particular situation in Bastrop. B, any matter which the starting board deems advisable and appropriate. C, the level of independence from the City Council required to implement DMO so as to maximize its benefits to the tourism and hotel industry. And conversely, are there alternatives to complete what would achieve the same goals? D, whether the DMO should be a Texas nonprofit corporation, a department of the City of Bastrop, an independent board created by city ordinance or some other type of organization. E, how many board members should there be, and should at least one board member be either the mayor or a City Council member? F, should the board members be selected by other board members with City Council approval or by board members without City Council approval or by some other method? G, if the existing board members select new members, can there be safeguard to ensure that the board will be representative of all sectors of the hotel and tourism industries? H, whether the DMO should apply for tax-exempt status under the IRS Code 501c6. I, whether the city should send out a request for proposal to existing nonprofit groups interested in becoming or running a DMO and contract with the entity selected by the City Council. J, what methodology should be used to determine whether the DMO is performing its intended function, such as return on investment or some other methodology. K, whether the DMO should have a role in marketing the convention and exhibit center, and if so, what should that role be? L, whether the DMO board should be empowered to manage and allocate funds under Tier 2 funding, community organization grants. M, whether the City Council by ordinance or the DMO by rule should establish a maximum limit, a fixed dollar amount or percentage of funds allocated for administrative costs. N, what is the benefit to the City of Bastrop in creating a DMO as proposed to hiring an advertising agency to create and manage a marketing campaign or campaigns? O, should the DMO use and pay for the services of the city attorney, or should it retain its own independent counsel? L, I got another L, I think we got out of order. Anyhow, we'll have to renumber these. That should be P. Should the City Council by ordinance or DMO by board resolutions and bylaws create the rules for submitting annual budgets for approval, quarterly reports to the City Council, and other activities necessary to comply with applicable state and federal law? M, which now should be Q, should the DMO, if independent of the City of Bastrop, subject itself to and comply with the Open Meetings Act and Open Records Act, and N, which should be R, such other issues as may be raised by the mayor, city council, city manager, city attorney, or individual members of the starter board.
Okay, Gary, is there a second to this motion? Second from Willie. Gary, you want to say any more? I mean, you said a lot right there.
Well, you know, I think the intent is they're just, as I've looked at this from the last meeting and before, there are lots and lots of issues that the board will need to establish that the city council will have to sign off on how this organization is going to operate. And I think that the starter board needs to be prepared to do this level of detail, to bring back to the council answers to these questions, and work with DMO Pros, who has done this before, to sort through it all. You know, I hope that it's not a long and drawn out process, but I don't want to shortchange the tourism industry here in Bastrop by not doing a thorough, comprehensive job in putting together a plan for the DMO going forward.
Willie, you have any comments? Anybody else? Okay.
Yes. Okay, on number one, I'd like to find out, I don't want to pass this until the starter board has had a chance to review this and look at it, and we've all had a chance to look at it. But first of all, I believe we decided on a lump sum. I'm not really sure about the wording of the motion that was passed last time, but could someone check that out, please?
Yeah, we checked it at the advisory committee meeting, and I think what it said was the recommendation that this group, the advisory committee, decide whether it be hourly or lump sum, and they recommended, and Gary's proposing something else.
Okay, well, then I think we voted on that last time, so I would hate to go against what we voted. Now, the number E on the panel, the city appointee.
Hang on. Oh, okay. Let me ask, before you say anything, let me ask Marvin to weigh in on.
Yes, I talked to the lady that runs the office of the consultant. It's apparently two people, the consultant and the staff person, and they indicated they would be quite pleased to negotiate more specific contract with by the hour, not to exceed.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the second one is Case going to ask something I think you wanted to comment on.
2E.
About the advisory committee.
Who the city appointee is.
One of your staff members to be the city representative.
I think it's clear that the staff should be supportive of the committee, but not be voting on the committee. And that's just kind of a fundamental process as part of the structure of the charter. And so Sarah is certainly available to support the committee.
What part of the charter is that?
The part that talks about the...
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that part. I don't recall it.
Well, there's no provision in the charter for staff people to serve on council committees.
Is there a provision for them not to?
It's unnecessary because all the staff reports to the city manager. And it's not even appropriate for the city manager to serve on the committee. The city manager should be serving the committee, but not serving on the committee, not have a vote.
Would Sarah be, would you put Sarah as a staffing person for this?
She's already been so assigned, that's correct.
And she would continue, okay.
The problem I'm having with this is that the committee met and the committee approved Sarah O'Brien. So all of a sudden, everything is turned on its head, which may be fine, but to me, that's something that it goes against what that committee actually decided.
The committee was following Mr. Geist's recommendation that there be 4 specific representatives of the items that are listed here under item number 2, and that the city have a representative.
Who is selected? This is the first time I've seen this city representative. Who selected the city representative?
It's in Gary's motion.
So
I mean, nobody selected anybody until you pass it.
All right.
This is in
Because
Gary's.
That is my recommendation.
That's your recommendation, okay. And,
Let me comment on that while you're at it. I would say the value of having Tom Scott in that position is multifold. He was the primary person for the city while he was mayor who set up the Bastrop Marketing Corporation, the BMC. He's very thorough, was very thoroughly involved in that. The contract for that Bastrop Marketing Corporation included the word destination marketing in it. He's thoroughly aware of the needs. He also is somebody who, having been a city official and a distinguished member of this council and the mayor elected several times by the citizens, to represent the kind of issues that we're going to be concerned about in a way that I'm not sure that
my question is not about who it is, it's about the process. I'm quite sure Mr. Scott is a great person. It's about the process.
Okay.
Okay, secondly, 2C, I don't even know what that means.
All right, wait a minute, hang on. On what page, okay?
It is number 2.
Page 2?
And number C. Number 3C. 4C? Oh, yes, thank you, Willie.
Okay,
4C.
Gary, you want to comment on that? Level of independence.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of looking at how we perceive, how the council perceives, and how the starting board perceives the level of independence that needs to exist between the city government and this entity, the DMO entity. And, I'd like to see some discussion on, what's the best way to make it, I guess your word is transparent, so that the industry that's going to benefit by this feels like they've got a reasonable amount of say-so.
Okay, well, I would like the committee to look at that and have a chance to digest everything on this so they know what is expected, and I would like a chance to discuss this with our city attorney because I'm not real sure I understand all of it.
You're talking about the starting board that Gary is proposing. You want them to be able to talk about it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think isn't that your point, Gary?
Before this resolution is passed.
I was hopeful that this would pass so that we could get them started immediately and start working through all these issues. I mean, obviously, you've got questions, Kay, because we all have questions. We don't know how this is going to work, and that's what we're charging this committee with getting.
So let them do it, Gary. Let them work it out and come back to us, and then when we've agreed on this, we'll pass a resolution. Then I've got a couple of more questions here.
Keep going, please.
How many board members should there be, and should at least one board member be either the mayor or the city council member? Yeah, okay, that can be discussed. I think we would discuss that last time, but I think that we really need to look at this piece of paper before we make a resolution. Should the board members be selected by other board members with city council approval or by other board members without city council approval or by some other method? Yeah, we need to look at that. There's a lot of questions here. I don't want to sign off on anything until I'm sure that I know what I'm making a resolution for.
So,
Excuse me.
I think that, let me see if I can clarify it for you. I think what I read in Gary's motion is that we create a starting board, that we elect the people listed on the second page, that the starting board can begin to consider these questions and issues and come up with their best recommendations and report back to the council, and for the council to engage in a dialogue with them as they come, and we move through this as quickly as we possibly can so that everybody knows we're on the right page before we set up the ultimate organization.
I think what you just said is absolutely crucial. Everybody knows we're on the right page before we set this up. So everybody.
The council is going to have to make final decisions on this, but we've been we've been told repeatedly that council will, if the council has to do this legwork, it's going to bog down. That they
What's
want-
2 more weeks,
They
Ken?
they want independent people to, an independent review of it. And so I think, as far as I can tell, Gary's laid that out.
Well, I disagree. I think that 2 more weeks so that everybody is on the same page and we're not cramming things down anyone's throat. We're all trying to work towards that same goal with cooperation. I think it's important that we all have a chance to look through this, including the starter board, and then we will look at the resolution next time.
Deborah?
To my knowledge, the starter board has looked through this and they're fine with it. And the issues that you have, Kay, are both things that Bill Geist has commented on and that he's approved to move forward. And I say that we continue to go forward.
Any other councilman?
Does anybody?
I've got some people from the public.
Okay.
Do you want to say more, Kay?
No.
Deborah Moore.
Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager, why do you hire a consultant? If you're going to micromanage the recommendations that they make, I was here, this starter board is ready to get going. What I hear with Mr. Schiff's motion, with his resolution, is that you want to dot every I and cross every T and not give them the ability, the people that are directly affected by the way this marketing organization is set up. It's life and death for these businesses. Don't make decisions for them. Do a contract for services if you want to, make them come back to you, but let them go forward. Take these recommendations from Mr. Geist. Until this whole board has met, I'm sorry, Ms. Jones, but I can't see that everybody on that starter board has had a chance to look at it and is okay with it. I think it's only fair to them, people who have volunteered to give up their time to serve on this, to meet together as a group and go over it. The council may approve it in the long run, but to table it right now until this starter group has a chance to look at it is the only right thing to do, in my opinion.
Thank you. Bonnie Coffey?
Mayor, council people, I'm beginning to think that I'm in kind of a twilight zone and alternate facts are running all around. There are only 2 people on the dais who were at the meeting. I was there. A lot of us were there. And Councilman, what you're proposing is not what we discussed. It's not what some very capable city people came to the table and it came to a consensus on. I don't think everybody's read this. We haven't read it. I have no idea what's in this thing. So for the rest of the city, for the rest of the people who are here tonight, to make a decision on a resolution that we haven't even read, that we've not had access to, and for those of us who are interested in seeing this DMO succeed and to do the right job, has done a disservice to all of us. I would urge you to let the committee do what they're supposed to do, what you wanted them to do. We talked about an independent board. This seems to be reining people in again. And we're going to get bogged down again, and it's going to be another long time before anybody gets anything accomplished, and then you'll complain about that, too.
Thank you. Deborah Johnson?
I, too, was at the meeting, and for something like this, I think it's insulting to volunteers who give their time. The people that the group met and suggested last week are all very knowledgeable of their field, of markets that are connected to the destination marketing. And I agree, I think we need to let them go forward. And Sarah O'Brien is certainly an expert at what this city has done and will be the perfect liaison and should be able to continue to serve. But these 5 people were tasked last Monday night with finding the people to build this board. If they choose to choose someone to be the chairperson, if they choose to invite someone to come on, that's their choice. That's the way the consultant suggested it would happen. And I think it's very important for all the businesses that are connected to the tourism and the destinations to be able to know that they are respected for their expertise and their knowledge, and they should be allowed to serve on this board, as your starter committee said to do. Thank you.
I think these are the people that the advisory committee recommended.
I know, you suggested a chairman. You suggest Tom.
Well, he did because.
Yes, they have not discussed who's chairman. They haven't discussed who's going to be on it yet.
Yeah, okay. Donna
Come
Cunningham.
back to Ms. Johnson, would you come back and say that, because I couldn't hear it.
I said, I'm sorry, these 5 people have not discussed whether Mr. Scott's going to be chairman. They haven't discussed who's going to be on the extended committee and who's going to be the chairman. They should be given the ability to go ahead and do what they were tasked to do.
I will just say that Mr. Guy said one of the 5 should be a representative from the city. I think that's what Gary's proposed. Donna Cunningham.
Council, I was at that meeting on Monday, and I have a business downtown. I have a vested interest in this, and what I have to say to you is you are micromanaging the dickens out of it. Don't do this to us. Let the city expand and grow as it needs to, okay? Thanks.
Richard Smarsik.
Hi, Richard Smarsik, 925 Main Street. Parliamentary, I think you're out of bounds. I know you raised this as a motion, but it's a resolution. Resolution needs to be published and reviewed beforehand. What's for consideration and action is an appointment of these 5 people as discussed and as reviewed during the advisory committee. I believe the motion should be withdrawn, the second should be withdrawn, and a new motion for the action is what should be brought forward. Thank you.
Herb Goldsmith.
Good evening. I have a couple issues. If you read the DMO Pro's report, it specifically said that the money that's been spent on the convention center needs to be looked at more closely in terms of the fact that it only generates maybe 21% of its revenues when technically it should be generating 51% as proffered before when you all voted for it. My other thing is, as a result of that, and the fact that the BMO did not do well in the last 5 years, from what I understand, and according to that report,
Bastrop Marketing Corporation.
Yes, did not do well. So we can't put our hat on that as being such a great effort. As a result, since Tom Scott is the person that championed both the convention center, the DMO, and a couple other things, I think he will not be impartial. I think you need somebody impartial on this board, this starting board, to get this thing going right. Otherwise, what has just been proposed is going backwards. That's how I feel.
Thank you. Council, that's all the citizens.
I have something else to say.
Yeah.
Last time we had every single person stand up and say that they were against something. This council ignored them. I hope that you understand that these people that spoke are the people who are directly affected by this DMO. And I hope you will listen.
Deborah?
If I have a new motion. I don't know if you have to withdraw your motion before I can.
Well, what you could do is, if you want to make a motion to amend Gary's motion, you could do that. If you want to make a motion to, you can make a motion to postpone the vote. You can make a motion to amend it. You can make a motion to lay it on the table.
I don't really want to amend his motion. I just thought I would make a new motion.
You can just make a discussion about it and
Why don't you
see where we're going.
see where-
Okay.
Where would you like to go with this?
I think that, and I thought this 2 weeks ago when we first started talking about this, and I can't remember who I spoke to about it, it's inappropriate for Sarah to be on this committee. And I think that Tom is a great representative for the city, and everything else that has been stated needs to be handled by the board, the new starter board. That's real simple.
I think I think the question that may not be clear is that whatever happens ultimately with the creation of this program is going to have to come back to the city council. The council is responsible to the citizens for a large amount of money that the council holds in trust for the citizens of Bastrop. So there's a lot of questions that are going to have to be asked. Our staff members, I'm persuaded that both Marvin and David, city manager and city attorney, will be available to help staff this process. The world of information and knowledge among them. And we're not deciding anything except asking, if y'all decide to do this, asking people to come back and tell us what they think on these particular questions that are very important. And then council can take a look at them and maybe engage in a dialogue, or maybe say, great, let's do that. So these are questions. These aren't decisions. These are just questions. And also it lays out an opportunity for more questions to arise. So, Gary?
Yeah, I would ask our city attorney, is there a legal issue with adopting a resolution that was brought in today?
In my opinion, no, because the matter was properly posted, and so therefore I don't think that's an issue. I would like to point out, if I could, if you look at all of the items on page 2, they all involve legal issues and that have to be resolved before a DMO is formed or before any kind of a permanent organization is formed. And I can't stress enough the specificity of the tax code when it comes to how money can be spent. It's intended to benefit tourism, the hotel, motel industry, convention center. It's specifically directed to that. And we're talking about creating an organization that is going to be a level of bureaucracy, a level of expense. And the one in particular that I looked at was a DMO that is considered successful, has 18 staff members. It had a budget where 60% of the budget was spent on overhead and staff and salaries and benefits, and only 40% went to marketing. And so that's the kind of thing we've got to wrestle with, I think, to make sure it's a legal organization, one that complies with state law.
There is no question that we have to go by the state rules. No, I don't think anyone would question that, even one iota. What my question is why this has to be rushed through today when we have just said a board needs to be formed and it needs to be an independent board. Why does this have to be rushed through today? Why can't it be looked at and examined? And why can't the process be a little more fair?
And that's not my bailiwick. All I'm saying is that somebody's got to answer all those questions on the second page and the first, to make it a legal organization.
I'd like to withdraw my motion for this resolution and maybe make a new motion, but let me discuss where I'm coming from on this. And that is, I think what we've done here is we've tried to do some homework to put the city in a good position to move forward in spending an awful lot of money.
May I ask who we is?
No, let me finish. What I'd like to do, I would like to just place this in the hands of that group. I would like to, though, put together, vote tonight on the slate of board members, but give them this document and say, this is the guideline. These are things we're going to be looking for. When you come back with your recommendations, make sure that you've got the legal aspects of that organization properly covered. Make sure that you define how those monies are going to be spent, what tiers of hot fund monies are going to be dealt with by this organization. There's some really key issues that we've laid out, that I've laid out here, that I think the group needs to be thinking about, if not mandate. I don't want to micromanage them. I just don't want to delay this process by them overlooking things that we need to be thinking about, that this community is going to be looking back, after we get this set up and say, well, what were they thinking? How is it that they got an organization that doesn't cover these legal aspects, these fiduciary aspects? You know, I think I just want them to do a good job. That was the last time when we went through this, we talked about how important it is to do this right the first time. And I'd like to see it happen right. And so I will withdraw my motion, and I will draft, I will draft a new motion if I get the second, I guess the second will be withdrawn.
Well, okay, Willie, if we try to redraft the motion, Willie, okay with you? No, if we,
I'd like
you were a
some
seconder.
discussion.
I'm trying to let Gary decide about a motion. So you're withdrawing, okay. So do you want to frame
the motion that I will make, I withdraw my first motion. I move that we establish a starting board of Clint Howard, Howard Patel, Brackett, Smarzik, and Scott as the starting board, and we hand them this document as a guideline document for them to start work.
Let me ask you a question, Gary, as if you're forming that. I think the issue under of concern is on page 2, 4A following. If you were to go make your motion the same as it is through 4 on the second page and change the following issues to relevant issues and stop it there, that would allow you to say posted meetings at City Hall.
I don't think we need to be cobbling things together here. He has withdrawn his motion. You can't do this.
Yes, you can.
He's withdrawing it in order to make another motion, and I'm letting him work that out. So my question is, does that meet what you're trying to do?
All right, you're saying
if you draw a line under 4 and say everything else is out, and the word on the second line of 4, the following is replaced by relevant, and let them figure out what's relevant.
Yeah, I think that would work, because it does establish, well, one, obviously we need a contract. We need to develop the contract with DMO Pros. We put the board together, and we get the starting board going as with public sessions. That's fine, and we make the rest of the items, recommendations, guidelines for them to follow.
Point of order, please. I'd like a written statement with that written motion.
Yeah, Gary, can we, I guess what we could do is change that one word and let, if that's not clear to you, if that's what you're doing, and let Ann go print it off. I think it's, in my mind, it's pretty clear if you just change that one word, but it's up to you. We can certainly, you can make that one change and let Ann go copy it if you want to.
All right, let me read it a couple of times.
I'd like to see it written, please.
If I can get the wording correct.
All right, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to defer to Councilmember McAnally, and Gary, would you make your changes, and we'll ask the city secretary to make copies, and we'll bring those back out when she's ready. We'll resume. We're in recess. My mic's not on. We're going to reconvene into our open session, and the floor is Mr. Schiff has the floor to make his alternative motion.
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
All right, then I will move that we adopt the resolution as previously read with the following modification. The only modification is item number 4 on page 2, and it would read, the starting board will use the following guideline issues as points of discussion and report its progress at each regular council meeting hereafter, at which time the council may make comments and give further instructions as necessary. So I'm softening all of these items to be issues that they should be thinking about.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bill. Gary, you want to say anything further?
I think it's pretty clear at this point. I mean, I think the important thing is that we turn them loose, we get them going. They've got some guidelines, we got a board, we've got a budget for paying DMO pros to move forward with us, and we move forward.
Bill, anything from you? You want to say?
No, the only thing that I see here is these are guidelines to help the board, which I know the board's going to have many questions also. And if they look at this resolution, there's guidelines in there that all have to be answered at one time or another. So this is just a guide to help out to get this thing rolling.
Okay, Kay.
Yes, I'd like to know who the "we" is in who put this together, please.
I worked together with the city attorney to make sure it was with legal, with the city manager, and with the mayor.
And with the mayor. And any other council members?
Not one.
Okay, so may I just say that when we met, the DMO met, every single person at that table said they wanted to be totally independent from the council until they figure out what they want to do, and they'll come back and they'll work with the council. The only person who opposed that was the mayor, and the mayor's the person that helped do this.
Yeah. Well, let me comment on that. I'll state what I stated at that committee meeting. I have talked to, one time or another over the last couple of years, a lot of people. There's been a lot of comments made in this room about things that the DMO structure needs to include. There's lots of questions that Marvin and David have, and somebody's got to wrestle those to the ground. I've been advised by a lot of people they don't want the city council doing it. The city council will muck it up and take too long. We're trying to get an independent board. The 4 people on that board that Bill Geist asked for under those categories are totally independently recommended independent from the council, and Gary's motion includes those, and Gary's motion also includes somebody from to represent the city. And I think that somebody is going to have to work through these things. If this board is not going to be authorized to do it, then the council's going to have to do it. We're going to have 2 or 3 workshops to do that. I don't mind doing that, but everybody I've talked to, not everybody, most everybody I've talked to said they don't want us to do that. They want an independent group to take a look at this, and I think
you're spinning this. You're spinning this here. What the group said.
Please don't.
Okay, in my opinion, what the group said was, butt out, city council. Let us come to our own decisions, and we'll come back to you, and then we can work together. That's what we all agreed, except for you. And I really think that no one has had a chance to see this. This is not the way it's done. And who said that a city appointee is going to be a chairman? Who said that?
This motion.
This motion. Well, this motion is doing a lot of things that you might want to do, but not what that committee that met wanted to do. Not one of these people said the city council should dictate to them what they should be doing. They are quite capable of looking at the state law and being sure that they follow the state law. They're quite capable of that. You fought this DMO for the first 3 years that the Vision Task Force brought it forward. Now, all of a sudden, you're just running through trying to get it passed without people taking the time to have full understanding of what's going on here. And you're trying to get a resolution passed and get your own chairman in there and all these things.
I have a question for Gary.
This isn't, hang on a second, this isn't about me. I'm not going to vote on this. And I think it's inappropriate for you to try to make it about me, because this council's having a reasonable discussion. I'm adding some comments, and that's the way we proceed.
Okay.
And I'm going to call on Deborah now.
Did you talk to, am I understanding correctly that you talked to Bill Geist about the composition of the committee? Because my understanding...
The advisory committee that we set up at the last meeting had before it Bill Geist's recommendations. He recommended 4 stakeholder groups and 1 representative from the city. That committee that met last Tuesday their only action was what's here on item D1. That was those 4 people, and suggested Sarah for the city representative and about Bill Geist, and start setting up a starter board.
Well, why can't we
just... that's what I think Gary's motion refers to.
Okay, well, why can't... Okay, well, I misunderstood that, and I think I don't know if I spoke to Ms. Coffey or Mr. Johnson and said that I thought that Mr. Geist had spoken to you about that. He did, but not since that meeting.
No, he put it.
But why can't we just move forward with what's in the agenda and the recommendation's been made for Sarah, but I would like the recommendation be that it's Tom Scott. I don't think it's appropriate for Sarah to serve on that committee. And that's what I would like to make the motion, that we move forward just as it's presented with the recommendation that Tom Scott take that liaison position between...
Deborah, that's Gary's motion. You don't need to restate that.
Okay, well, I'm just discussing this, okay? If I'm not doing it properly, I'm sorry. But I don't know how else we're supposed to talk about this than to just talk about it. So I'm not trying to be inappropriate. I'm really not.
I just want to make sure.
I just want to talk about it, and that's what I think we ought to do.
Okay.
So if I'm out of order, please excuse me.
You're not out of order if you're not making a motion. Thank you. Glenn Johnson.
Councilor, this initial step that you're taking is a slap at the DMO Pros consultant's report that indicated that the board should be independent. Now, you don't like Sarah O'Brien to be on the board, but that's what the advisory board voted on, with Bill Geist on the phone. He didn't say there was any problem with it. Deborah Jones said that he did, but he didn't. I was at the meeting.
That's what my understanding was, and please excuse me for saying that. I ask your forgiveness.
You're forgiven, if you want it. If you don't want to select Sarah O'Brien, it's not your duty to appoint someone else. It's the advisory board's duty to appoint the people on the independent board. And I have nothing against Tom Scott. Maybe he might be the person that would be selected. But for you to say, no, advisory board, you're not independent because we're not going to approve your recommendation, and in fact, we're going to fill that slot with who we please. Now, Tom Scott may be perfectly fine, and the board may eventually say, Tom, we want you on the board, the expanded board. But for this council to go against the consultant's recommendation for letting the advisory board to act independently. Furthermore, the independent board will act under state law, but to insult them by saying, here's all the rules you got to follow, they're just getting started, and the first start out of the gate is, I think Councilmember McAnally is correct. Mayor Kessler did not get his way. And everybody that was there, most of them are here in the meeting.
Then I'm going to ask you to stop talking about me personally, because what you're saying is not true. It's inappropriate. It's against our rules. Now, I'll let you keep talking if you'll clean it up.
Well, the mayor wanted to have the mayor as the chairman. That was what the advisory board was set up. And now you're selecting your chairman of the board. The board should select their chairman. They've not yet voted on it. The board, if you don't want to vote for Sarah O'Brien, should have the opportunity to select a representative from the city that they feel would be available to help them along. And the idea was that Sarah O'Brien had the skill set the knowledge of how to run a DMO to provide the advisory board their information. That's what was said. So if you're going to pass a resolution, then vote against Sarah O'Brien if you're going to do that, but don't select a representative and then make him chairman. Let the board decide to do that. Let it be independent. That's what we've been wanting. We don't want a city department to run our advertising, to run our DMO. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question? For the last 30 minutes, all you're hearing is that Mr. Geis this, Mr. Geis that. We let it go by every little word he put it or said to us. I don't know if the proper thing would be before we had the advisory meeting was to ask Mr. Geis for the city's accountability. Can we pick one person that we feel comfortable with from the city standpoint? And maybe that should have happened. It didn't happen, but I feel better council picking one person because for the accountability factor anyway. And whether he's chairman or not, I mean, there's probably another better person to put on that board than Tom that knows and understands everything that's been going on since the time he was mayor up until the present. But maybe the right thing to do was to ask Mr. Geis or get his permission before you had the advisory board and ask, can the city do this?
I think my view, Willie, is that we're following what he stated in his report. But also, I don't expect this council to necessarily accept everything that's in that report. I mean, you're going to have to make your best decision for the city. Let me go ahead.
Well, yeah, I'm willing to amend my motion if I can get a second on the amendment, and that is I'm willing to let the board select their own chairman. I don't think it really matters whether former Mayor Scott is the chairman or on the board, as long as he's there. He understands probably more about this than any of us because he put this original BMC together, and so I would retract my original motion, or do I just make an amendment? Can I amend my motion?
I think if you want to change it and it's okay with Willie and we're clear, you could do that.
Okay, then I'd like to change it to just leave the mayor on as a board member
from the city. Will, you okay with that? I mean, Bill, are you okay with that?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Second.
So
I would like to further ask Gary, if and that's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I would just further ask that just this whole document that you've typed up just be handed to the starter board as our position or our concerns as a council, and not be made a resolution. Let them pick their own chairman. And in fact, I mean, if y'all can live with it, I would really think that Tom is very appropriate. You pick your own chairman. I mean, if it's just going to get everybody if you just can't deal with it with that, maybe we could ask that you consider putting him on that starter board. But I do agree with Willie that there should be a liaison between the council and that starter board, and I think Tom would be great. Let them pick their own chairman, and do not pass any resolutions. That's what I think.
So the resolution that's on the floor has been changed to just reflect the one change to what we passed out. Secondly, it's clear that all the details at the bottom are things that I assume the city manager would share with that committee and ask them to considering. And then the change would be taking Tom Scott off as chair and have him as the city representative. So is that clear to everyone?
I don't think it really matters whether it's a resolution or not a resolution. The thing is, by making it a resolution, we get the key points, the assignment of the starting board, the contracting with DMO pros, and obviously the meetings will follow posted meeting standard state rules on open meetings.
This is expression. The purpose of a resolution is to state the council's clear desire for what's happening. It needs to be in a resolution form or a form that is very, very clear. I think this one is, and we've had city attorneys in the past recommend resolution format, so I think it's a good way to do it from my experience. Kate?
Yes, I would agree with Ms. Jones that and Mr. Schiff here, who says it doesn't matter to him if it's a resolution or not. Ms. Jones says she thinks it could be a recommendation. I would agree with both of them that we could submit this as a recommendation, not a resolution, and also that we allow them the latitude to make a recommendation who they would like for that fifth member, and if they would want that person to be a chairman or not, and come to us, and then we'll work with them about that. We don't do that first.
Bonnie Coffey, you've spoken once. Can you make this already on this issue? Can you just make it real quick?
I can. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to support your recommendation that this not be a resolution. I think that you all have some incredibly talented and experienced business people who are working on this. I think that none of them would have come to you with some willy-nilly plan to make this thing work. I think that there is a question list that has been circulated among many people about things that need to happen before this becomes a reality. So I would encourage you to not make this a resolution and impose this on them, but to treat them as the business professionals that they are, the people that they want the DMO to succeed, and say this is what's going to happen, and these are our concerns. Because most of these will be organizational issues that will get resolved, whether you form a 501c6 or a C3 or whatever they decide to do.
Let me try to clarify. I think we've gotten some muddy water. Here, we had some recommendations from a committee that we established at the last meeting. They have reported. Gary's motion in resolution form responds to what they said and adds a few details to it, like open meetings and so forth. Adds a city representative. And it's got to be specific in some way so that group has a charge. I don't care if it's a resolution or a motion or an ordinance, but the idea is it's got to be written down. The part that I'm afraid is confusing people is all those specific things that Gary said we would love for this committee to look at. You know, Marvin can take those to the committee, to the board. People in the community can take issues and questions to the board and ask them, lobby them about what should happen and so forth. But there's got to be some setup guidelines for how this new board is going to be created and empowered. And so if you bear in mind that from the 4 on down, 4A following, all that is simply something that will be presented to them for their consideration to consider or not. There are issues that a lot of people, largely, they come from the city attorney and the city manager. So they can look at it or not. And we'll go from there. So that's what Gary's motion is. So I don't see any reason why it can't be a resolution, because we've got to respond to the advisory committee from last week, and we've got to take some action so we can empower this group to get started.
Can you not understand? Can you keep saying the same thing over and over? Now look, here's the thing. We had 7 people that were full of hope and happiness and thinking they were going forward in a good direction when we left that meeting, that DMO meeting the other night. Here we are in chaos again. Here we are back where we started because somebody has thrown in a whole bunch of new stuff without everybody getting a chance to look at it, without going through process. So for me, I agree with Ms. Jones and Mr. Schiff. If you want to make your recommendations, that's fine. Do not dictate to these people, please, what they have to do. Let them do their job, and then we'll work together with the joy and happiness that we left that group with the other night before chaos incurred again.
I don't see chaos, and I think that we're saying the same thing. Connor McAnally.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Just one quick thing before you vote on whatever it is you're going to vote on. Mike Djokovic from the Hyatt was very clear at the meeting the other night, but you weren't at, and I don't think you were at either, that the success or failure of a DMO is measurable by one thing and one thing only: how many people are sleeping in hotel beds in Bastrop every night. That's how you judge the success. The one concern I really have about appointing former Mayor Scott is that he is so heavily personally invested as a legacy item in the convention centre, and if the money that is available all goes to the convention centre, we will not be putting heads on beds. So I would like council to consider that very carefully before we vote.
Any other comments from council?
I'm willing to amend again. Because I don't really, I think I've made my point here that there are lots of issues that I'm going to be concerned about going forward. I don't need a resolution. I don't need orders. I don't need I don't want to do this. I guarantee you, I do not want to do this. And I'm happy to get a group of people that are willing to go through and set this organization up. But when it's done, guess who's responsible? Look down this dais. So I just want to make sure that when we're done, that the group has thought about, in depth, about all those little issues that there, if you read the DMO pros report, it's, he says, well, this can be done this way, it can be done that way. And, every one of those issues really depends on who we are, what our needs, what the needs of this community are. And so you can't just say, we're going to do all of Geist's recommendations, because his recommendation, well, you can go this way if you like this, and you can go that way if you like that. I've been a consultant my whole life. I know how this works. And so the user, the end user, this community has to make the decisions, what makes sense for us. And this list is just to point them in a direction saying, hey, I've thought about a few of these things. You might want to think about them too. So I'm willing to amend again my motion that we adopt a resolution that goes 1 through 3 with Mayor Tom Scott not necessarily being assigned that chair position, being on the board representing the city, but not as the chair. 1 through 3 just sets up, hey, we're going to pay DMO pros, we're going to have this board for starting, we're going to have public meetings, and I will personally hand the people a copy of this report, which I'm sure they will get anyhow, and say, hey, this is what I'm going to be looking for when you come back.
You would be deleting everything below 3.
From 3, everything from 4 down. Draw a line there. It's gone. So
Okay.
that's my amended motion. Do I have a second?
Bill, is that okay with you?
Yeah, you bet. Sounds good.
We've had a couple of.
So what does that mean, that Tom's still on there or he's not in there?
If you vote for this motion, you will be voting to address the whereas clauses in the first place by asking the city manager to form a contract with DMO pros under the guidelines, create a destination marketing organization starting board, complete with the 5 members named, scratching out everything after Tom Scott's name, and including number 3, saying that we'll meet in public at posted meetings and at City Hall whenever possible, and that is it. So, Bill, you're okay with that?
Yes.
Is everybody clear? Anything else?
Yes.
Let me show it to you, okay? That's okay. I want everybody to be clear. Ann, are you clear? Let's call the roll on this one.
Councilmember Schiff,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones. Mayor Pro Tem De La Rosa.
Yes.
Councilmember Jones.
If I'm conflicted, do I have to vote?
If you have to vote unless you can express a good reason why you can't. Marvin says I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
She has to vote, or she has to have a legitimate reason.
For abstaining. That's what you said that in a better way than I did.
So, can I ask a question before I vote, please?
Sure. Why don't you ask David if you have a technical question?
Okay, so all these whereases on here are things that the committee has to do anyway? We're not deciding those for them? They're just stuff that they have to do?
Whereases don't count. They simply state the issue. And then the resolution is the resolved part. So the whereases were put in there to explain where we were and the reason for the resolved clause. And so, I mean, there's nothing, I mean, ask David to explain that if I'm wrong. There's nothing that's required in the whereases, except it gives the guidelines for why we're asking these, what this board has to comply with, because those are mostly legal things. Is that correct?
The whereases are not required in the motion. They were put in there because it was in the form of a resolution. A resolution requires an explanation as to why you're doing it, typically expressed as a whereas clause. These whereases are the things that compel this resolution forward. That is, the city's got to do all of these things in order to vote one way or the other. And so that provides the background for the resolution that follows.
So they don't necessarily inhibit this starter board in any way?
That they don't.
Then I vote yes.
No, they don't.
Councilmember McAnally?
I vote no. This should have been backup material. This was sprung on us. It was an ambush and an hijacking, in my opinion, and I vote no. I don't like this. It should have been backup material.
We all voted? That's a 4-1 vote. Marvin, since we don't have anybody designated for leadership of this, I will ask, I would assume that the process would be that you would convene, somehow find a time to convene this 5-member starting board, let them know what the council decided tonight, and we understand that you and Sarah and the city attorney will work with them to provide staffing and advice. Is that correct? Is that understandable, everybody? Okay. Thank you.
May I ask a question? Why wasn't this backup material? Why wasn't this shared with the council? Why wasn't this shared with the board? Why? You were there. Why, Mayor?
From my perspective, it's a matter of timing. You know, hear over and over and over again, except that now suddenly everybody wants to slow it down. Well, the idea is let's get this thing moving and get it out of the hands of the council. I think that's what we've done tonight.
Oh, boy.
We have finished item D1. Item D2 is regarding Ethics Commission request for some more members. Mr. Townsend.
Excuse me. This comes to you from the recommendation from the Ethics Commission. They met on August the 3rd, and unfortunately, I didn't find a copy of their minutes until just a little while ago. I wasn't here August the 3rd. You were in the process of hiring me, so it was not my knowledge as to what had happened. And I have drawn for you a ordinance amendment, but it's just addressed going to 5 members from 3. But I would like to take the matter back to the commission. In going from 5 to 3, pardon me, from going from 3 to 5, the minutes of the commission dramatically change the balance of the commission. By this I mean the way it's in the minutes of the commission, for a 5-member commission, 3 would be a quorum, and 2 of the 3 could therefore act on any matter before the commission. The commission ordinance right now requires all 3 to act and all 3 to be there. And it's a rather dramatic change, and before the question comes before you to vote, I think I would prefer to ask the commission if that was their intention and be sure that we have their draft of the ordinance correct. I would bring it to you at the next meeting if that's appropriate.
Let me ask this question of the council. The board, the commission has asked us for some additional members. I'm assuming, would I assume correctly that no one would object to Marvin running the traps on this and talking to them before he comes back? I think you got some nods of the head on that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Item D3 is consideration and possible action for approving a contract for the Bastrop Public Places Art Walk, cultural walk or cultural art walk?
Cultural walk.
Cultural walk, and it's Mr. Joe.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We brought this to you a few times. We actually had two submissions for the design, one through Burdett and the other through MDM Design. When the BAIPP board met in December, they chose Burdett through a scoring criteria. There's a couple representatives from here tonight if you have any questions. But we just like to get the contract moving forward and start heading in the direction of designing the culture walk.
Question? Questions?
It's budgeted in their budget. Bastrop Art and Public Places, yes. It's well within their budget range.
There's no comments?
I move to approve.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you, Trey, and thank the board that you work with for their continued good work. Item D4 is first reading of an ordinance revising the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 4 of the Code of the Ordinances of the City of Bastrop, Bastrop Regulations, Article 4.03, Taxi cab shuttles and touring vehicles, to add definitions of terms and exemptions from coverage, add regulations pertaining to pedicabs, horse-drawn carriages, low-speed vehicles, neighborhood electric vehicles, providing additional remedies for violations and amending Appendix A 4.03.001 license of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bastrop concerning inspection and driver's fees for same, providing for penalties and establishing an effective date, and that's the city attorney. David, do you need to come up to the podium, or?
I don't think so. This was laid out at the last council meeting in order to give everyone an opportunity to read it and comment on it. To my knowledge, we've received no comments, no suggestions, and so I believe it is ripe for first reading.
I move that we approve on first reading the ordinance for the, as specified.
Second.
I see no one wanting to talk. We'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. 5-0. Thank you. Thank you for the good work on getting that together. We're real excited. I know everybody in town's excited about this deal.
I'd like to say something about D5 and D6, please.
Let me call it first. Item D5, Wesley Brandon regarding a plat in the Buttonwood subdivision.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Before we start this, I want to talk about this. I want to reverse the order of D6 and D5 because we should have a policy that we vote on before we vote on an individual's concern.
Okay, let me ask before we do that. Marvin, did you, in any reason, put these in that order?
No, our intention was to have them both considered at the same time. That makes sense.
Could we consider them together? Well, could we consider them together? No, I guess we can. Okay.
No, I don't want to consider them together.
You want D6 first? Okay.
I do.
Okay, let's do D6. Wesley, that's this is a policy that's similar to that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we will let you and, well, actually, that's Trey's name is on this one, so sorry. So we're on D6 now.
So thank you, Mayor and Council. If you'll remember, last month we brought this to you, and it was just simply a small policy that staff had put together to take care of some small infill development. We were coming up with some issues that were happening in the form-based code area, but we went back and expanded it and made it a little bit broader. And basically, the purpose here is to promote contiguous growth. This is all in your packet in the policy that's actually written. It would be for residential single-family development only. It would establish, neighborhood utility standards with appropriate infill and ensure minimum size are being met in accordance with city ordinance, et cetera. So we have some area in the form-based code. This actually does follow the recommendations from our comp plan as well as our form-based code. These are some other areas in the way this is written, it's actually broad enough. If you'll remember it, the 2015 retreat, it was brought up some infill areas, some areas that could develop on the north end of town. They would meet this criteria. It was a small development and it wasn't something large. And then the criteria, are here, and it's basically, it's an improvement to the water and wastewater facilities, promotes growth, it will improve fire flow and safety, residential development or conform with the surrounding neighborhood, if the property is being platted or replatted to 2 or more lots, but no more than 5, so we can keep the subdivision small. It ties to 2 existing mains, and it's less than 1,000 feet. So that'd be the criteria. The policy's in here. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Hey, you have questions on this part of it?
Move is presented.
Oh, sorry, Richard, did you want to say something? Oh, I thought you raised your hand, sorry.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Is this the part about the ordinance where you're creating as far as the difference between creating a new subdivision or not creating a subdivision like we talked about?
Yes, this will, what this is for small infill development. There's some areas in town where a water line may have been extended to a house that's mid-block, and as as you've passed ordinances in the past in the form-based code and things of that nature, we're able to subdivide lots now. With a smaller lot size, you end up with more lots. So the need to put a water line or a sewer line in that small block isn't addressed, and it's not necessarily affordable to have those small lots developed. So if you'd like to continue to promote infill, this will take care of it, and it's something that necessarily won't impact the ratepayers. The city can help, we can ensure all the needs are met, and it's at a small cost to the developer.
So how much has this changed since the first meeting that the next person we're going to take up on the agenda came in with? Because he was being treated as this was a new subdivision.
And everyone still will be treated as it's a new subdivision, but it'll all be based in the attachment that's in here in your packet with the development agreement that comes with it. So it's a contributor agreement. We agree to do this, the developer agrees to do something else.
Well, I'm going to vote yes on it, but I disagree with what you term new development and what I talked about existing development in an old town neighborhood that you're going to see in the near future, and probably more as we expand that infill project to another area of town, because this is an existing subdivision, has utilities already there, and because he chose to divide a lot into 2 or more lots, you're asking him to upgrade a line, and the city, and we're going to address the general fund a little bit later, and down on the ballot, down on the agenda here later. But we had a chance to do something. I think we're encouraged development when we had the chance. There's a availability to put 5 houses around within that whole block between Hill and Fayette, but I just disagree with what you term as new development and what I term as old existing development.
Okay. Yeah, but I didn't establish the term. It's actually the state platting law. I was just trying to simply put together a small policy that will allow for this kind of development.
Yeah, let me add to this. It is definitely, when you divide one lot into 3 by state law, it's a new subdivision. I mean, whether you require a dedication of some street frontage for the wider street or whatever your other requirements are, it starts out legally as a new subdivision. That can't be changed. Now what condition you want to impose on the new subdivision, you can change the subdivision ordinance if you feel that a requirement to dedicate some right-of-way on a narrow street is inappropriate. But it would need a lot of discussion, because there's a lot of different situations where that's going to be very definitely in the public interest to have the widened street. In this case, the right-of-way is about 30 feet wide, right?
That's correct. And this policy allows you that flexibility to negotiate with that person versus the already imposed standard that we have.
So I have a question of Councilmember De La Rosa, and that is, so is your problem with this that it's semantics, or are you opposed to the intent of this ordinance?
I don't disagree with what the manager was talking about. I understand very well where he's talking about when you're creating 2 or more lots and it's a subdivision, but you're talking about you're creating a new subdivision within an existing subdivision. It's not like you go out there on the north part of town and have 20 or 30 acres and you got to bring new utilities, whether it's water, sewer, streets, sidewalks, and the whole 9 yards to a subdivision. There was already existing utilities on this street, from Hill Street to Fayette Street. And then in the middle of that, you ask them to put a fire hydrant in the middle of a block when you don't need to.
Let me make sure that what you're talking about
is the next item.
But it is pursuant, I mean, it's does it come out of, I mean, last time y'all came, you gave us that example. So is what Willie's talking about an example of how this thing works?
Correct. So
I'm going to allow him to continue that line of conversation.
So Mr. Sanders, in order to be able to plat, he had to show where he could bring a water line in, or how he would get the utilities to those lots. This policy and this contract that we put together allows him to do that. Now he can move into the platting process, but he is required to pay the fees for what it costs.
And the advantage of the property owner for this, either the one that's a live issue right now or future, the advantage we're providing for them is what?
It is much more affordable to do this way.
All right.
He's probably saving upwards of 7.
My whole deal was when this, because of what it was turned on Chapter 10 of our ordinance that said new subdivision. Anyhow,
Marvin, will you please clear this up with the state?
Can I finish?
Oh, sorry, I thought you...
Go ahead, Willie.
Well, I don't know. I got interrupted now.
I want you to continue, please. It's important.
My point was being, in accordance with the ordinance, a house in the middle of a block has to be within 600 feet of a water hydrant. There doesn't need to be a hydrant in the middle of the street. So there's hydrants on each side of Hill Street and one on Fayette Street, well within that 600 feet. Commercial buildings have to be within 300 feet of a water hydrant. But when you first came in with this deal, he didn't have to have a fire hydrant. That was the point I was trying to make at that first meeting. He didn't need a fire hydrant in the middle of the block.
So
let me clear this up.
Okay.
That was my mistake. Nobody else's. I didn't see the fire hydrant. I went out there and looked at it because it was so controversial, and I missed the fire hydrant. I told you that at the previous meeting, and I don't mind saying it again. I just missed a fire hydrant. There's no fire hydrant required in this block. There is a fire hydrant at the end of each of the street at both ends.
So in the case that the rule would allow, if you're within that distance of a fire hydrant, wherever it is, that's okay.
Right. Yeah, it's 500 feet per resident.
So is that okay? Yeah. Okay. So would I guess we're, I don't know how to deal with this except asking examples.
Sure.
And we just happen to have an example, which is the next item. I appreciate the fact that we're dealing with this policy first. That was a good catch on Kay's part. Why would, if a subdivider comes in, why would a subdivider have to do more than just bring water to that subdivision and not, and because I think what we're going to see is, if I'm reading this right, they have to do the entire block.
I agree.
I mean,
let him explain, because that's not, we're talking about the city picking up the extra distance.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure I understood it. I was looking at.
No, that's correct. He is paying for the materials for the entire block.
So,
why
would?
Oh, wait. Keep this straight now. He's going to buy the materials for the whole block. We're going to install the whole thing.
No, my question though is why would the subdivider provide material for the whole? I'm going to let Deborah talk. She understands this better than I do.
Very simply.
Deborah, would you go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's the city's responsibility. Let them bring it up to their property line. I don't know why we're making him do the whole block. I understand that we're providing the labor, but he's providing material for the whole block unless perhaps the offset of labor up to his point would be even more than the material. So it's, okay, never mind.
That's correct.
Thank you.
You reached the conclusion, right?
So what you're proposing would be better than the whole thing for half the street.
If he put in half the street, he would still spend about $7,000 more.
Okay, that was my question.
Which is why we tried to help with this policy.
All right. Bill?
I've made a comment. It's going to be 3 houses instead of 1, so you need that fire protection.
So, okay. Now we're talking about this policy. We're on D6, and we've had it explained. Anybody got any more questions, and anybody want to make a motion?
I move to approve as presented.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Councilmember McAnally. Any other discussion?
Yeah, it
Gary?
says this is a draft. Are we going to see a redraw of this? Are we approving this draft?
If you're approving this draft, we'll just remove the draft off the policy.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, I just didn't
I'm
want to.
cool with that. I'm good.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. That's a 5-0 vote. Thank you. Now let's move into BD5, which is a specific case that would now fall under this policy. Is that correct, Marvin?
That's correct.
Okay. Wesley?
Move as written.
Second. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is any discussion? I want to call on Marcy Moore to come make her comments.
Hi, first of all, thank you for letting me speak. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me speak. I am the owner of 1202 Buttonwood, directly across the street, and I have been for 7 years, much longer than Terry Sanders has owned his property. I have several points. The narrow streets. I'm sorry, that last took me off guard because now Terry doesn't have to pay for certain things, and I didn't understand that. So I'm a little incensed. I need to gather myself. Okay, I understand there's now an allowance for very narrow lots in downtown. These lots that he's proposing are 0.17 acres, which in my opinion are exceedingly small and will allow for exceedingly smaller houses. If these houses ever become rental properties, currently 1203 is being rented for a mere $850. Now, if these lots next door to them have homes built on them, they'll be smaller and the rent would be lower. Already the street is only 18 feet wide. We may have right-of-way for 30 feet, but it is not. I don't want my property value to go down. May I approach with some photographs?
Sure. While you're distributing those, let me ask Wesley, is that one, whatever the size that she quoted, is that correct, and is that within our code?
Yes, we measured the street to be roughly 20 feet wide.
I mean the lot size.
The lot size is allowed to be at a minimum of 40 feet wide, and these are actually almost 50 feet.
Okay, so it fits.
So they do meet the.
It fits our code. Okay. Oh, these are different pictures. I'm sorry. We need.
So we need to start one
Yeah.
and bring it.
Yeah. Let's do it. I thought they were all
Those are
separate.
the pictures I'm about
Sorry,
to speak about. Sorry. The 1200 block of Buttonwood Street, he may have measured it at 18, but I measured it from grass to grass. I'm sorry, he measured it at 20. I measured it from grass to grass at 18. You know, it's still very narrow. Street parking is unsafe for homeowners to pull out of their driveways if a vehicle is parked across. Currently, I measured Beach Street on the way over here. It's currently curb to curb, 23 and a half feet across. We have no curbs on this block, as you can see. Flooding is a major, major issue on this block. Flooding, and you'll see that photos 1, 2, and 3 example the point I've just made. Photo 4 is the flooding. There is no drainage in this block, and flooding is frequent. It's caused unsafe driving conditions. Adding additional homes will only increase this danger to drivers. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but the date on the letter that I received was 1/17. However, myself and another property owner, Sandra Bishop, she owns the property at the corner of Hill and Fayette on the Mina side. She is a realtor herself. I spoke to her on the phone before getting here, and she was very upset because she could not attend. She only had 3 days
Ms.
to
Moore,
get here.
I'm trying to be fair to everybody in this room about the time limit.
I'll be quick. I'm very sorry.
Thank you. Well, I'm sorry we have, anyway, keep going. Yes,
My
sir.
time's up.
So I'm just saying, please wrap it up as quickly as you can.
In summary, I am strongly opposed to this division of this property. It will just decrease my value of my home greatly. I bought this property as an investment to retire with. I guess I'll leave it at that, and thank you very much for your consideration to deny it being split into 3 different units.
Thank you. Any
Yes.
any other discussion? Okay.
Yeah. Wesley, could I ask you, do we have record of any of those homes being flooded? And has anyone done a study to see if more homes are placed there, will the flooding get worse if there's no drainage there?
I don't have a record of any of the homes on our formal list that we've developed as part of the recent flooding events that we've had. As far as the drainage for the new home construction, that's something that we look at during the building permit process because it's very specific to that individual home site. We want to make sure that as the building is built, that it's configured in terms of its roof drainage and where the downspouts are located. That has a huge role in where the water goes, and we would definitely make sure that that water is directed out to the street and into a system that can handle that.
Can that street, the pictures that I saw, the street doesn't look like it can really handle much more water. Do you happen to know that it can yet?
I haven't seen those pictures.
Okay, sorry. This is a real concern to me about the drainage. Trey, do you know anything that you can add?
As part of the drainage study that's actually taking place right now, to look at Gills Branch, and it's actually addressing that area, Fayette, Hill, Buttonwood, the downtown area, and that'll give you some options later on. Have they been developed yet? No. But there's absolutely, it will go into the existing drainage that's already there. It can be cleaned and it can be taken care of while they're building, but I'm not sure when these pictures are.
Tell me about the existing drainage that's there. Is that the same drainage that allows flooding at Fayette and Farm?
If I remember correctly where this is at, it actually goes all the way down to Farm Street and probably hits those inlets into Hazel into like a 66-inch culvert that eventually makes its way to the river.
So that's where a lot of houses were flooded.
Right.
And that's where we have real problems. People have lost the floors of their homes and their animals in that area. So if this is the same drainage that goes down to Farm and Fayette, then what we're looking at is if we add more homes there, do you have an opinion on how that could affect the drainage there?
Obviously, as you add impervious cover, more rooftops, things of that nature, you're going to have quicker runoff than you would have. But we're hoping to address all those issues with the improvements that we've talked about previously for the drainage ditches and things of that nature.
And do you think that that might be addressed before, how long do you think that will take to be addressed with the drainage issues in that area so that the people wouldn't have to worry about subdivisions? I'm sorry, I know I'm asking you to be a fortune teller, but.
Well, the study, if I remember right, should be finished in February, somewhere in that. So then we would bring that back to council, probably closer to March. Then you would issue COs or something of that nature for the improvements that we talked about, the detention pond, the ditch work along Fayette, all the way to Gills Branch, those type of improvements.
And how long does that usually take, assuming that council would approve the drainage that's long overdue? How long do you think it would take to get that in place so that those people on Buttonwood wouldn't have to worry?
It will be a multiple-year project.
Multiple years?
Multiple years, yes.
Right.
Let's be careful about that kind of a forecast. There's no drainage in Buttonwood, correct? It's surface drainage.
Correct.
So the water's got to get off the property to the either street that it's going to go to.
Correct.
And what you're saying is that if there's bond funds or some other funds available to make the improvements that are being recommended by the consultant, that will probably mainly improve the drainage on the north side, the streets that are shown as Hill and Fayette, right?
Yes.
It's not going to impact Buttonwood, except it might get the water off because the catch basins on the two end streets might be open.
Well, yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
It would be more quickly, I would say.
When are you talking about that, Marvin? I'm not quite sure I understand.
Well, we haven't seen the report yet, and the report's going to have projects, and the projects have to get financed.
Yeah, so we're talking a good while yet.
Yes.
But in the overall platting process, all those are addressed on the final plat unless they reviews all that. So he'll be checking those boxes as he goes down. He wouldn't have brought it to you otherwise.
Right.
Thank
you, Trey.
This fits the policy we just passed.
Yes, sir.
And it's a recommendation from the staff to do this?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? I think you're ready to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
No.
I've got a 4-to-1 vote. Thank you all. I'm going to ask.
Let me make sure I understand this. Because of the form-based code that we approved, this has happened in a lot of other places other than Buttonwood Street.
Yes, sir.
I can't hear you, really. Turn off.
Okay.
Well, when do you hear your question, please?
I was just answering the question that she asked. It was only like this flooding and this drainage problem was just around the Buttonwood area. Because of this form-based code and the ability to put more houses on smaller lots in your neighborhood, you're going to have this problem, more of these problems around town.
It's definitely an issue we'll have to look at, yes.
I'm going to ask the...
I mean, you can't vote for a form-based code and then say you can't come in when you've gone through all the planning process to get it approved and then say because it's a drainage issue. I mean, this is going to happen all over town because of this form-based code.
I'm going to tell the council that I'm suffering the worst cedar fever I've had in decades. And I ask your indulgence to allow me to go home and go to bed. So I'm going to turn the rest of this meeting over to Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, well, I just need to go.
I don't need that.
Okay, just use your mic.
Yeah. So where do we stop on number 7? Item D7, consideration, discussion, and possible action by the City Council for approval and adoption of the resolution adding Texas term and local and government investment pool, thus creating a program for diversification of the City of Bastrop's investments in accordance with the Public Funds Investment Act, Texas Government Code Section 2256.001, and the City of Bastrop's investment policy. Ms. Waldron.
Yes, this is just a resolution adding the Texas term option as just more diversity in our investment pools. I do have Ken Couch here with Texas term if y'all do have any questions.
Move as presented, please.
We have a motion to approve. Second. And a second by Gary Schiff. Secretary, I think we need a roll call, please.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Schiff?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
That's 4-0 vote, so it's approved. You heard the cemetery, don't you? D8, consideration, discussion, and possible action on recommendation by the Fairview Cemetery Advisory Board that the City Council either grant or deny a variance request to allow for the cemetery plot or plots legally described as being A Block 8, Row N, lots 16 through 18, 3 spaces, or B, only Block 8, Row N, lot 16, to have fencing erected around the perimeter of the plots as prohibited in Chapter 15, Fairview Cemetery. Code of Ordinance of the City of Bastrop, Texas, Section 15.01.15A, prohibited activities.
So we did get the variance request that's included in your packet. Mrs. Carbajal was at the board meeting and the board discussed her request for the variance. And the variance was passed by the board with the motion that I've put on the agenda, which is that they were okay with the 3-foot fencing. It needed to be iron and it needed to be curbed. All 3 plots, not just the one. And that the fencing finials were not sharp or pointed. That's just for our safety reasons that we've adopted in our ordinance. And that there is a gate on the fencing so that, you know, the plots can still be accessed.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You talked about it not being sharper pointed, and I read that, and I looked at that picture on 129, so they can't have
That's
this.
not her fence.
But they can't have
yeah.
that particular kind of...
Exactly, right. And she was, she understood all of this and was in agreement.
Move as presented, please.
Second.
And a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. 4-0 vote. D9, consider discussion and possible action on acceptance of the unaudited monthly financial reports for the period ending December 31st, 2016.
Move as presented.
Second.
Okay.
A motion and a second to approve D9. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
D10.
Mr. Mayor,
Sir.
as far as D10, we would like to postpone that to the next meeting because we do not have the graphics that we would like to have presented to you.
All right, Mr. Manager, thank you for that. First meeting in February, maybe?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to D11. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on a letter of commitment regarding a TxDOT Green Ribbon landscape project to install landscaping improvements within the city limits. Mr. Wesley Brandon.
Mayor Pro Tem. This request is related to some work that we have been doing to coordinate with TxDOT and a funding mechanism that they have called a Green Ribbon Project, which allows them to provide and pursue projects related to landscaping improvements along state highways. They've approached the city to allow a project to move forward that would provide almost $900,000 of landscaping improvements at 2 intersections within the city at basically no cost to the city. The only cost the city would incur is making the existing utility taps, water taps, available for their contractor to use, and also providing 2 new 1-inch taps, 3/4-inch taps to allow them to irrigate the new landscape.
Move as presented, please.
Second.
Got a motion and second. All in favor? Aye. D12, thank you, Wes. D12, discussion and possible action on authorizing Bastrop Fire Department to apply for 4 firefighters through the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grants. Mr. Steve Adcock, Public Safety Director, and Mr. Wolbus, Fire Chief.
Thank you. What this is, we applied for this grant last year. Unfortunately, we did not get it. Spelled it out pretty plain as far as how much the cost would be, what the percentages would be. The one thing I want to stress is this is just asking permission to apply for the grant. Does
Move
not
to
mean
approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Got a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Moving on, okay. D13, consideration, discussion, and possible action on resolution granting the request of petitioners designed to establish Travis County ESD number 15, which will be an overlay district, generally following the boundaries of Travis County ESD number 11. One district will provide fire service and the other emergency medical services. Bastrop's ETJ was extended into Travis County at several locations when in the 1980s property owners signed contracts with Bastrop to join Bastrop's ETJ and thus avoided fear annexation by Austin. The proposed district needs the consent of Bastrop to include area outside of Bastrop County, but in Bastrop's ETJ. Both county appraisal districts report that only Travis County property will be assessed by the new district and only Bastrop County property being assessed by the Bastrop County's ESD. Consent by the city of Bastrop is recommended.
Mr. Mayor,
we approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Manager?
Well, I was going to have you introduce the representative of that fire district who is here.
I would like to.
I think if he can catch the wind, he would probably prefer you just go right ahead.
Could you please come forward and introduce yourself?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ken Bailey. I'm the fire chief for Travis County ESD 11. And And I'm happy to answer any questions, but I don't want to take up any more of your time than necessary.
Thank you for working with the city of Bastrop. Appreciate
Thank
it.
y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And City Secretary, let's do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Councilmember Schiff?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
4-0 votes. Thank you. Mr. Adcock, discussion and possible action regarding resolution authorizing Bastrop Police Department to apply for storage space under the body-worn camera grant through the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
I move to approve.
Second.
And a motion second. Chief, have anything
No, sir.
that needs to be made?
The only thing is, we do have to pay 25%, and we have those funds in our budget presently.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Like a 4-0 vote. Thank you, Chief. Well, okay, here we go. Discussion and possible action on awarding a contract to the low bidder of Royce Construction Company Incorporated for the remodel of the police court building. Following bids were received: Royce Construction, $304,650. Say I-Corps Construction, $323,146. Gakey Construction, $323,537. ASD Consultants, $329,300. LMC Corporation, $372,705. HCS Incorporated, $373,200. Integrity, $385,331. Albright Construction, $420,000. Don Crew Construction, $431,000. And Linus Construction, $590,000.
I just passed out to you a little more usual way to lay out the bid tabulation, but it's the same figures that the chief just.
Since this is a budgeted item, I move to approve.
I'm sorry.
Move to approve
Second.
Royce Construction.
Second.
That's who you
Yes, so
recommended?
we called all of their references, and one of them was AISD, Austin Independent School District. Nothing but great reviews from this company.
Let's do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Schiff?
Yes.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
4-0 vote. Thank you. D16, discussion and possible action regarding resolution approving the police department to apply for a grant through the Office of the Governor to staff the Austin Regional Intelligence Center.
What is that?
ARIC is, it's a collection point, and it's a repository for criminal intelligence. Basically, for departments our size, we don't have the resources, and it's an investigative tool. If we have crimes in different jurisdictions, they monitor all open sites, and if we possibly think we may have something going on, such as we had the HEB burglary that took place here. They had them in Austin, they had them in other locations. We can go to them and they can tie everything together. We're very fortunate because they only invite certain jurisdictions in to be a part of them, and they invited us in this last year. It's called a Fusion Center, which is information gathering. DPS has one, Austin has one. There's only I think there's either 6 or 7 fusion centers in the state of Texas, and so this is a huge tool for us for investigative purposes.
Does this require, I see you're asking for some money for overtime. Is it possible to reallocate the resources that you have right now to cover this?
No. We don't have any extra resources. We would have to get these funds in order for folks to go down there. And it's not required that we staff it. Austin has the staffing they need, but in order for our investigators to fully understand what they do, it's one of those places when you walk in, there's screens all across. It's huge. We need them to be actually in that location in order to understand what they're doing. And we're mainly going to send our investigators because they're the ones who are going to use them. We're already using them, but we're only using a very small portion of what they truly can do for us.
I see that you like this.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I move to approve.
I have another question.
Got a motion and a second. Councilmember Jones?
I just have another question, if that's
Please,
okay.
go ahead.
So really, for you to send your people up there is just so that y'all can understand more of what's available to you? Is that really what you're asking for,
That is
that extra
correct, and
fund?
also if, it's kind of like if they're going to help us, we need to help them some. So we're actually going to be put to work. We're not just viewing what they do. We're actually going to be put to work, answering phone calls, going through the data, and, you know, crunching the numbers and stuff. So we'll actually be helping them, and that's what they would like to see, but they also understand that some jurisdictions simply can't, we couldn't do it if we didn't get this grant.
So we'll be learning, our people will be learning at the same time then, that's great.
Oh, absolutely.
That's okay. So how much?
I'm sorry, do we have the money?
I'm not finished yet. That's okay. How much is this, you know, what are you estimating the costs?
The cost for what? How much am
Well,
I
you said-
asking for?
If you get the grant, that's.
I'm asking for $31,000, and I think we figured it out that it was a 1 8-hour shift per week per detective.
But the grant, I mean, as far as the grant, does it cover a portion of that, or
Covers
is that what
everything.
our portion is?
No, it covers everything. It's no cost to us. I'm sorry. We don't
Oh,
pay
so
a
you're not
penny.
asking for anything?
No, we're just asking to be able to put in for the grant,
Oh,
and if we get it,
okay.
the city doesn't pay a penny, other than our mileage to drive to Austin and back.
Move is approved. I mean, excuse me, move as presented.
I think we already had, we had a motion and a second, right? You did, right. You had the discussion. All in favor?
Thank you.
D17, the consideration and possible action approving the solicitation of bids for the removal of the radio tower located at Mayfest Park. Trejo.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As part of our lease agreement with Bastrop County for the new shelter, we were going to have to remove that tower. And what I'm here tonight for is just to ask for permission to start soliciting bids. I've got a scope of work already written. As soon as we get permission, I'll send them out.
Second.
Got a motion by Ms. McAnally and second by Ms. Jones. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Trey. D18, the first reading of an ordinance revising the City Code of Ordinance, Chapter 12, establishing a 3-hour parking time limit on Main Street and striking the portion of parking on Chestnut Street that is no longer applicable, and establishing an effective date. Chief Adcock.
Thank you. What this is, I worked on this. Councilmember Schiff wanted a 3-hour parking. So what we did, I included in the packet our current parking restrictions, and I included the red line so you would see everything that we struck out. I do want to, all we did on this, we struck out anywhere where it said 2-hour, put 3-hour. We struck out anything that said 6P and put 5P at his request. But while we were in, we did strike out 801 and put 803. We struck out, while I was in there, I went ahead and struck all parking on Chestnut because obviously we no longer have that. And so it was still in our ordinance, so we struck all parking on Chestnut because it's illegal by state law now. And the only other thing I want to mention is on B, the ordinance it said was for the old City Hall when it was on Main Street, there was a 15-minute parking in front of Main Street at Old City Hall. So what we did is included the Central Business District, which means if at any time we have no 15-minute parking, but if at any time the council decides they want to put a 15-minute parking, it's there. Y'all just decide to. We don't have to change the ordinance. The only other thing that I did change is in section 12.06011, which is the enforcement. It also, on the COP's been able to enforce it, it also says 2 hours, so I struck that and put 3 hours. That's the only changes we made.
Could I move to approve?
Second.
Got a motion, Mr. Schiff, second by Ms. Jones. I'll get to you. I got you right here. Ms. Nancy Wood's going to be first on the list. I just had one question to the chief before.
Yes, sir.
It has nothing to do with Spring Street or Pine Street?
Yes, it does.
It does?
Yes. Anywhere
other than Chestnut? It's going to go 3-hour parking? Okay.
Yes.
Make sure everybody
Now,
understands that.
One other thing I wanted to add, per the city manager, we did strike 5 and 6 because his recommendation is that simply doesn't apply on 5 and 6.
Thank you. We got 4 that want to speak on this issue. Ms. Nancy Wood?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, Nancy Wood. I'm here speaking on behalf of Liberty Glen, a downtown business at 1011 Main Street. And they'd like their information known that they would like no parking limitation for the Main Street parking spaces. We're creating an environment in our community where customers can come and stay for longer than 3 hours. And the feeling is that if customers come and get ticketed for being longer than 3 hours, that they will not come back. Most of our business comes from outside of Bastrop, primarily Houston. And when people come to shop, and they are regular customers, when they come to shop, they come to stay for the entire day and enjoy everything that happens downtown. All of our restaurants are within walking distance of our shop, and we would like our customers to know that they are welcome to stay as long as they can. Thank you.
Thank you. Donna Cunningham, 926 Main Street.
Yes, sir. I have Donna's by Design on Main Street.
Excuse me?
I have Donna's by Design on Main Street at 926. My business has been in business for about a year on Main Street. I was working with another business on Main Street for about 7 years. What you're proposing with a 3-hour limit is killing the businesses, because we would really like people to be downtown for more than 3 hours. We would really like people to be downtown for more than all day. But if they have a 3-hour time limit on parking and they have to go find another parking space after only 3 hours, they will just drive home. So I think you need to think about this one very hard and think about how you're actually going to enforce it and how many tourists you're going to drive away with it. Thank you.
Richard Park. Good evening, Council, Mayor Pro Tem. I think you're hearing from the business community that's downtown that they're opposed to this 3-hour idea. I think you haven't asked those people. You haven't included it. I think we should have a town hall, pull those people in, bring the Main Street Director. Main Street Director should be bringing this to y'all. I mean, I understand the public safety component to it, but we're not having a problem. I have people drive in and out of my parking spaces all day long. I don't need an enforcement of a 3-hour parking. I don't need enforcement of 2-hour parking. I don't need this. I understand you want to clean up part of the ordinance with the other parts. Clean it up. Leave the hours out. Thank you.
Deborah Johnson.
Art Connections Gallery, 908 Main Street. DBA has addressed this issue multiple times. Frequently, the abusers of parking a long time are employees and business owners. And unfortunately, if you put a time limit of 3 hours and you start ticketing, you're most likely to catch, though you're likely to catch some of our visitors, which would be terribly detrimental to a business community that's already struggling to keep the doors open. What we can do instead is do something like DBA has done, which was send out letters of, please be respectful of your other fellow business owners and don't allow your employees. We can do that again. Main Street can do that again. We can do a little bit of self-policing with terms of who's abusing it. But you know what? If I have a visitor that wants to come and spend 6 hours on Main Street shopping and eating, yay. Because we've done our job of building a Main Street that works. So let's just figure out a way to work with and suggest to our fellow businesses to don't park in those parking spaces, but leave them for our visitors who can stay there as long as they want to. Please, for the sake of those of us trying to make a living down there, don't pass this. Chestnut's fine, you got to fix that, but don't pass the 3-hour parking and don't enforce.
I guess once again, the business community is asking the council to please back off.
I'm willing to, I withdraw my motion. I think we should hear from, what I've heard, a lot of complaints, people going downtown and seeing employee parking, cars parked on Main Street. I suggest to DBA that they make up some unofficial tickets that say, thank you for not parking your car here, Mr. or Miss Employee of downtown. If downtown will self-police, I think that would be wonderful, not having to use our police force or volunteers to do that. But I'd like to see it fixed because I do see the same cars. It's been this way. I've been downtown I was downtown starting almost 40 years ago up until a few years ago. It's been the same problem, and it is going to take a concerted effort on the DBA's part, I believe, to fix it. But you will benefit if you'll self-police. So I withdraw my motion.
I would like to say something. I'd like to propose that we bring back the ordinance and change the original ordinance so that there is unlimited parking on Main Street. And I'm going to ask Marvin if he can bring that to council.
Currently, if I'm not mistaken, we authorized at a previous council meeting the chief not to enforce that ordinance until further notice, and we haven't given notice, so
we had a
it's
moratorium.
suspended.
The moratorium has expired. We are starting to have some backlash from some people saying that because we have an ordinance of 2-hour parking, why are we not enforcing it? Well, the reason is because the ordinance also says you have to have signage. There is no signage. So if I think what your suggestion is to do away with 2-hour altogether, if that's what you're asking
Yes.
the city manager.
That's exactly right. I'd like to bring that back. I'd like to do away with 2-hour parking, all parking limitations, have them gone. Can I make a motion on that tonight?
No.
Okay, so can we bring it back? Yes, next in 2 weeks, please. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Last question. So when you brought this to us, or Mr. Schiff was talking about what we instructed you to do on the moratorium and everything, this was driven by people calling you or businesses downtown that were calling, or nobody was?
Nobody was calling me,
Okay.
no.
Because I spoke to you once before when this came up about, I'd rather just have the honor system, but I know people are going to abuse it somewhere down the line. Somebody that owns a business or their employees are going to abuse this, but I mean, I'm open to trying it. I mean, without any limitations on how many hours you spend, but I don't agree with, I don't disagree with Ms. McAnally's asking you to do, but somebody mentioned about, I think it was Mrs. Sparzik, maybe, and I don't know if we want to do that, invite all the people from downtown that own business to come in here and make a comment, or do you want to just go ahead and when you put that on the agenda and make sure that they understand maybe that this is going to be on the agenda and if they wish to come to speak, they can?
Yes, sir.
Is that okay with you, Ms. McNally? Okay.
That's okay with me. I hope that who will contact DBA, for instance, in the chamber to be sure that people know that this is going to be coming up. I guess it'll be posted, so. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sarah O'Brien will. Thank you.
But I think we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone that night if she wants something on the agenda that we can not only let the business people that are going to be affected come up here and make their opinions known, whether yay or nay. So at the same time, we take a vote on it. Yes. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
All right, I guess we got D19. You got it. This must be an important one here. First reading of an ordinance contractually annexing Track 1 and Track 2 Trinidad Business Park to the City of Bastrop and approving an effective date January 10th, 2017, Council Meeting Item D8. Recommendation that the annexation process be completed regarding Trinidad Business Park Phase 1, Lots 1 and 2, being an approximately 8-acre tract, on the south side of Highway 71 west of its intersection with Farm to Market Road 20. Public hearings were held on September 27, 2011 and October 11, 2011. On October 24, 2011, Mr. Richard Wilson, Mr. Jason Alley, the owners of the above described property, presented an executed contract for voluntary annexation, with such voluntary annexation to occur no later than 3 years after the 2011 annexation was completed. The 2011 annexation was effective on November 8, 2011. The service plan presented in 2011 is still timely. Mr. Manager.
I strongly recommend the first reading of the ordinance. I received this letter yesterday. I placed in your folders the 2 pieces of correspondence that I had sent to Aqua pertaining to this property. And I just want to answer any question you might have about this letter as I pass it out. What Aqua is saying is the water service to this almost 10 acres of land is partially platted and partially unplatted, I guess I would have to say, is the connection that would serve 2 residential lots. And that business park is out there connected to 2 residential lots, which means 2 single-family house meters. And we're going to tackle these problems one by one, but I just wanted you to keep that in focus. Here's the commercial facility with no fire service, no fire hydrants, no fire flow, and Aqua was saying they didn't have the responsibility to see that it was properly platted and had your requirements as the property was developed. I just wanted to stand here and see if you had any questions.
I do.
This letter is real clear. It's saying they didn't think they had any responsibility, and I was wrong in even asking about it.
Sorry. Go ahead, Willie. So are you telling me these people have no fire service, The water
service to the tract of land is the equivalent of what 2 houses would have, 1 on each lot. And they didn't notice that it had changed to commercial. That's what the letter says. I think you all know it changed to commercial quite a while ago. And as you also are aware, you're in the process of considering the award of a water supply line, which will get pretty close to this property.
What are you suggesting that the council does, Marvin?
Well, I'm suggesting you proceed with the annexation. I don't know why it was deferred when they had agreed to it, and it certainly should now be accomplished. But I want to point out on a highway, a major highway, that there is no fire protection, and it needs to be done, but it should have been done before. The state law is clear. The land was subdivided into 2 or more lots, and it should have been platted, and they should have met minimum state law requirements as far as water supply. And I just didn't want you all to be surprised when someone says, well, there's no fire hydrants. We said there's no fire hydrants, but we certainly thought they had adequate service for commercial property, but they clearly don't.
Just have one question for, just to be clear, whose CCN is this property in?
Right now, it is
Aqua's.
Yeah, I just
Willie, can you say what CCN means, please?
A certificate of convenience and necessity, the right of
the right to serve water
in the area. And I earlier pointed out to you that you did just move into one area that Aqua had vacated, not just down the street, but several miles down the street toward town in the commercial area. I just wanted to be sure that when you got this letter, you had a chance to think about it and ask any kind of questions you want. But it follows the 2 pieces of correspondence that I had in your packet, which was my letters to them.
Will this fall under the old agreement from 1994 that we reimburse Aqua for any territory that we?
Well, that concept might well be built into the state law, but the contract was terminated without either party agreeing to extend it. That's a pretty complicated question. I probably should bring a report to you, but
sure.
But that contract's no longer in effect.
Okay.
We have a recommendation from the manager, so it's y'all's pleasure.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Jones.
Well, I just would ask that in the future that when you give us maps, I mean, I have no idea. It's just a big black blob. I have no idea what this means. I'm sorry. I cannot see any of the platting on here, so I don't know if you have something more legible.
That was the same question I was going to ask. Is it Nancy Blakely right in the center?
I can't tell.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be able to see it. I just can't identify it.
We're James Allen, and they have their insurance office out there.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, that's where this is.
Well, are they asking us to annex that so they don't have to, I mean, do we then become responsible for putting in those water lines? For the hydrants?
Your responsibility does not change. They have the seats.
Can you get in front of the mic?
Yes. I was like,
Okay, I know where it
once you
is.
get the
I
property.
could not remember where I've seen that sign. Thank you, Willie.
Sylvan Learning Center.
Yes, of course.
The responsibility today was between Aqua and the owners. The owners had the first responsibility. Aqua had the responsibility to see that they did it. But in any event, water service should have been to your standards, and it should have at least had fire flow according to state standards. I mean, those were the requirements that were in effect during this whole period of time. And they applied for and got 2 water taps for houses. And they probably were houses at the time. I mean, one of them was back in '79, but then it just gradually was converted into commercial services.
Can they be actively required to upgrade to a commercial service?
That's not a simple question. I don't. There's ways to do it by assessment. You haven't used assessments in the past, but we would want to give you some kind of thorough report in that regard, rather than like just telling you that, yes, there are ways, but they're pretty complicated. The more direct question probably is whether Aqua is meeting the requirements of the law in terms of fire flow in property that's in your extraterritorial jurisdiction. And it's pretty clear in this situation.
Yeah, but if they didn't know that was a commercial use, if they still thought it was residential, then yeah, what they don't know, they can play dumb, I guess.
It's hard to drive down the road without seeing it.
So what are we being asked to do?
The city exists on all 4 sides of this property.
Mm-hmm.
That property was annexed in 2011. And at that time, these owners asked to defer annexation for 3 years and voluntarily were willing to be annexed after 3 years. It's clearly more than 3 years since 2011. And the city exists on all 4 sides of it. The service plan that was available then is certainly still the service plan. There will be a situation that will have to be faced between the owners and the city as to how it's going to get adequate water service for fire protection. But
so I guess, actually, I'm sorry, that's my question. Like, as far as what we're being asked to do, I mean, obviously, if we annex them and we know that they don't meet state standards,
that doesn't change.
That has nothing to do
because
with...
Because it's in Aqua's CCN. They're responsible to see that their service is adequate for fire flow and is consistent with state law and consistent with your plating ordinance.
But if it's in our ETJ, wouldn't we request Aqua Water to upgrade that? I mean, what are they going to do? Now that everybody knows what's going to happen.
I don't know, to be very frank. I met with them a couple weeks ago, not on this case, but in a generality. They said they were trying to provide fire flow. And this is the first example we've hit. It's clear here the thought never crossed their mind. You can tell from the letter that what they're saying is there were 2 houses out there and they didn't notice that it changed.
Mr. Manager, there's some good questions asked, but are you still recommending what
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But this is a first reading. We can't vote on this, so.
You can vote for first reading, approve the first reading.
Oh, I move to approve the first reading.
Right.
Amendment first by Ms. McAnally. You hear second? Bill Peterson, second. Let's do a roll call, please. Make sure we get this right.
Councilmember McAnally?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones? Councilmember Schiff?
Yes.
Thank you. That's 4-0 vote. Mr. Manager, there's no executive session? Well, Gary, move on.
I move for adjournment.
Yeah, move to adjournment. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.